Welcome, everyone, and welcome to my guest, Israel Horowitz.
Thank
The
you
only
for having me.
the only name more Jewish than mine, although mine is still secret, so nobody knows. Welcome, buddy. How's it going?
Oh, it's going well. I'm excited to do this. Thank you for
Yeah, I'm
having
glad
me
we
on.
got that mic issue solved.
Oh, right at the last
That's
minute.
awesome. So, can everyone hear us both clearly? That's the first thing. I want a one or a yes in the chat just so I can know if we should move forward. In the meantime, I'll do glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit. My guest is not a Christian, and if any of you came to see us debate, that's not going to happen tonight. That'll be another time, one day. For tonight, what we're doing is, and I see people asking about the prize. Well, we'll get to that, but essentially, this is a conversation that is open up for Orthodox or traditional Jews. Doesn't have to be entirely Orthodox, but I want to very clearly not messianic believers in Christ, not Karaite, not any other branch of something that says Judaism after it that isn't rabbinic Judaism, that isn't the Judaism that we all refer to automatically when we say Judaism. I know Israel has other ideas about what that should mean, but we all know that when we say Judaism, that's what we mean. So that's who it's opened up to. I'm going to put the link in the chat for people to come up and talk. Essentially, people talking about gold in the chat already. I say Jew, you say gold immediately. I think you're a little bit of an anti-Semite. No, I'm just kidding. But essentially, we're going to open it up for Jewish people to come, and this is your opportunity to do a very big mitzvah, okay? There's two Jews that left rabbinic Judaism here, okay? One became a Christian, one became a Torah only. I know you don't use the term Karaite, but according to Maimonides, we are both basically cut off from the Jewish people until such time as you guys can convince us to come back. So this is your opportunity to do a very big mitzvah and convince us that the Judaism of Orthodoxy, Jewish Orthodoxy today, whether it's even traditional forms of that, because I place Reform Judaism in the same category, it's Rabbinic Judaism, any of you can come up and try to convince us that that is the correct way to fulfill the rules, laws, and ideas of the Bible. Now, just a little background. I'm going to turn it over now to my guest Israel to explain a little bit about his background and ideas. Very briefly, just so you can understand the position that he's coming from. Obviously, I'm a Christian, and he's going to talk a little bit about his background just quickly to give you guys the rundown.
Of course. Well, I do come from the Jewish background, and I haven't crossed that bridge from Jewish to Christian. I do find myself somewhere in the middle, and it's almost remarkable that I have a lot more in common with Christians than with Orthodox Jews. I think that says a lot, which is why I align myself more with Christians than with Orthodox Jews. Although I'm not Christian, I'm actually in the process of reading the New Testament. I just finished the book of John, and I see statements about how significant Jesus is from the Christian mindset. I know this is not a Christian debate. I don't necessarily see him saying that he is God. I would say what I just read in John 20:17. He says, I ascend unto my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God. So I guess I would say I worship the Father of Jesus and the God of Jesus, and I follow the Torah of Moses. The Torah of Moses is what every prophet of the Old Testament, including Jesus of the New Testament, says to follow the commandments. The law has not been abolished. It needs to be fulfilled, and there are clear ways that we need to follow those laws. The Torah also says, do not add or subtract to these commandments. I was fully ultra-Orthodox, as you were, Ash. You were part of the Chabad movement. I was part of the Yeshiva movement, although I also have a lot of background in the Hasidic movement as well. I have family members from Reform Conservative too, so I've pretty much seen the entire span of Judaism. And I've come to the conclusion that Judaism is not representative of the Torah. In fact, when you were to follow the religion of Judaism, it looks entirely different than the religion of the Torah. I find the religion of the Torah to be beautiful. I find it to be universalist, fundamentally. I was just reading this verse in Leviticus 19:34 that says that the native and the sojourner need to be treated as one. And you should love your stranger as you love your native, because we're all human beings under God, and there's one Torah for all. I think the entire world has what to benefit from that. I think Christianity actually did a better job of spreading the Bible and spreading the Word of God than the Jews did. And
Even
we
Manis
definitely have.
Friedman agrees with you on that.
Oh, so I was mechaven. So if you mechaven to a rebbe,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's the reality. Is that we need to discuss the Bible. We have seen what secularism has done to this world, and it doesn't look good. And the reason why the Bible hasn't necessarily always been successful is because people have deviated from it. But if we follow truly what's written and not the word of man, I think we can reap all the blessings that God promises.
Awesome. So obviously we have agreement points and disagreement points, but I think the key idea here is that Rabbinic Judaism did not faithfully continue the beliefs of the Hebrew Bible. I mean, I always like to point out Paul, Jewish, James, Jewish, Peter, Jewish. Even rabbinic tradition says that Peter was always an authentic believing Jew and infiltrated the church. Although Rashi says that if you say that, you have to bring a sin offering, which is odd. So, yeah, that's basically the rundown here. And this is an opportunity for believing Orthodox Jews or people that believe in that tradition, that it is the correct tradition, to come and correct us or have a discussion on those topics. I saw something here I want to address quickly. Let's put you in timeout for 24 hours. And somebody said something else here. Did one of my mods already get the blasphemer? Yeah, I have very few lines as far as, like, I let people say all kinds of things.
Freedom of speech.
Yeah, I have freedom of speech until you start saying certain things that I saw here, so we'll just leave it at that. All right, so I'm going to post a link. Let me get the link. I'm going to post it and pin it. This is for people that come from a Jewish background tradition who believe that the rabbinic system is the correct fulfillment of the Hebrew Bible, to come and join and correct us. In the meantime, let's play some beautiful music from my church. After the stone was sealed by the Jews. You hear that?
Yeah. Is that live?
That's where all the anti-Semites come. That was, I recorded in church actually today.
Wow. That's nice.
After the stone was sealed by the Jews, and while the soldiers were watching your spotless body. We got somebody already. Look at that. This is faster than usual. It must be for you. All right, Yitzchak, can you hear us? And can everyone hear Yitzchak?
Here, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, great. Awesome. All right. How's it going?
Doing pretty good.
How are you?
Welcome.
Thank you. Glad I was able to join you guys. It's like 4:00 here in Israel. So
In the Holy Land. 4 a.m. Nice. Well, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So what's your background?
So my background is Jewish. Actually grew up in Christianity. So back to Judaism, back to Orthodoxy.
So are you a convert or a Baal Tshuva?
I'm Baal Tshuva.
Okay. All right.
So what's your question or argument?
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, there's a lot of directions we could go. I guess just to set the tone. I think we can all agree that that we're in exile, we're in galut, and that the main cause of galut is sinat chinam. And so I just want to set the tone that, like, this is all out of avat chinam. This is, out of love, out of love for you guys, love um, for Hashem, that that I'm even having this conversation with you. So, anyways, I just want to set that tone of like we may disagree on big things, but this is all in love. So, anyways,
Absolutely. Thank you.
um, so yeah, I think it's a little perplexing that that how kind of this was started. Like, well, just first of all, that like um, you mentioned that I Israel, you mentioned that you were like felt like you're a little more closer to Christianity, but I just think it's kind of hilarious that you know um, Christianity, really rejects the Torah, rejects the law, and and um, and also worships the Trinity, which is not historically what Jews worshipped. And you mentioned Israel about the how you don't see in the New Testament that that I call him Yeshua because that's his original Hebrew name. I don't like to call him by a goy name, like a more goyish name of Jesus, but Yeshua, how he taught the Torah, and
Sorry,
he
I was
taught.
muted there. I do want to interrupt at that point and just I have to correct
Oh,
this because I always do. The first
okay.
earliest record we have of Jesus is in Greek, and his name is Jesus. It's also there's no problem like if we're talking and somebody says Moses, you're not going to correct them. So I don't know why you would correct to say Jesus instead of Yeshua.
No, I just
Just
said
the
personally,
English name.
Okay.
I like to use his
Do you ever
Hebrew
say
name.
Moses to people?
I'll be a Rambam. Rambam calls him Yeshua, so I call him Yeshua. But that's a
Geschmack.
Okay.
personal preference. But just because I
No
like to
problem.
acknowledge his Judaism, because a lot of Christianity covers over his Judaism, and
I don't know of a branch of
turns in.
Christianity that covers over his Judaism.
What was that?
I don't know of a branch of Judaism that covers over his Judaism.
Well, getting back to I don't. I know this is not really the topic, so I don't want to like get
Okay.
off on the weeds. But you know, Christianity says that basically nullifies the Torah, observance of the Torah for Jews, and and worships a different God, arguably the Trinity. It's not the Jewish God, and it's not the God that Yeshua himself says. He says we know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews in John 4:22. So I know the New Testament, but I'm just saying that um, it a lot of the I agree with what Israel was saying, that from what I understood, that he saw Yeshua as worshiping the Father, worshiping God, and he was a Jew. He was a practicing Jew. He was a rabbi, and that's kind of what I want to get into. The authority of the rabbis is established in the New Testament by Yeshua himself. In Matthew 23, he says, the scribes and Pharisees sit on Moses' seat. Therefore, whatever they tell you to observe, that observe and do.
Okay. So
So
again,
Jesus usually says that.
in the
He says,
Greek, it's
whatever
they've
they tell you to observe,
yeah
that observe and do.
in the Greek it says they've sat themselves down in the seat of Moses. But also
Therefore, whatever they tell you to observe.
the Pharisees and the scribes at the time are some of the most knowledgeable people as far as being able to recite scripture. It makes sense for Jesus, who wants the Jewish people to fulfill the acting covenant of the time, to listen to the most educated scholars at the time on the scripture to be able to recite it to them. He goes on to say
Okay.
in Matthew 23, which you're leaving out the rest of the chapter, that he refers to those who follow the rabbis as proselytes, meaning it's a different religion. Their burdens that they
No,
bind on
that's
you,
not what he says. That's
their
not what he
burdens that
says.
they bind on their burdens that they bind on you, you should not follow. He also calls them snakes and vipers and whitewashed tombs, and he does not at all affirm any authority that they have going to Moses. He says they sit currently as the teachers of the law of Moses, and Jesus absolutely affirmed
And
to people to keep the
and he
law of Moses
says,
at the time.
therefore, whatever they tell you to observe, that
Correct.
observe
As
and
far
do.
as the law
That's
of
what he said.
Moses, that's why Moses is mentioned.
Okay, well, I agree as far as
Right.
regards the law of Moses, and he believes that Jews should keep the law of Moses, and he
Correct.
teaches
At
Okay,
the
that.
time,
can
Jesus
I just
absolutely affirmed the law of Moses.
can I
I
just
don't know
Okay,
ask
why
you
well
that's
something?
then, why
Because
does Christianity nullify the observance of the Torah for Jews?
again, we're
Well,
getting into a different
Yitzchak,
topic of
yeah, that's a
conversation,
different
but it
conversation.
doesn't.
You're
Hold
speaking
on a second.
from a Jewish point of view,
But also, it doesn't
right?
Okay.
nullify the Torah. There's acting covenants of the time. We see Abraham given one covenant and a different covenant given to the
We're
people at Sinai,
we're
and
talking
then an
about, well, yeah.
okay.
Go ahead.
I want to just express here that for me, respect doesn't mean nice words. Respect means acting non disingenuously and not cutting
Yeah.
someone off when they're responding to what you said.
Yeah. You cut me off first, so it
Right.
goes
I
both ways.
interjected because
So
you were going on a rant about several different topics without room for anyone to
okay.
address anything. Okay.
Okay.
Now, again, I absolutely, and so does all of Christianity, affirms that Jesus affirmed the law of Moses at the time, and that he also affirmed the authority of the
For all
apostles as
time.
the authority of the through the apostles to carry on the tradition, and he also enacted a new covenant after that fact. So obviously deep into Christian theology
No,
there.
not after that fact. Like that doesn't nullify the Torah because the new
After that
covenant
fact,
is
okay, the claim of Christianity is that Jesus is God. So Jesus enacted as God a new covenant after
but
that time
Jesus
with
said
the
he's not
authority
God. He clearly said
with the authority given to the apostles. The Jesus didn't say he's God thing has been debunked 100 times
no,
by
that's
scholars
not
better
true.
than
That's
your.
not true. It hasn't been
Yeah.
debunked. Most
Again, but it's also not
academics
the
don't
but it's
believe
also
that you
not the
claim to be
topic
God.
of conversation. So back to the
Yeah,
topic of
Okay.
can I
conversation.
just point some
Why
can
is
I point something
Yeah.
Judaism
out to
as we
you?
know today? Yeah, go ahead.
It's not the topic, but it's how this was started. Uh,
No, no,
Israel
no,
brought
no.
up the New
Excuse me.
Testament.
No, Yitzchak. First of all, I like that name. It's my second name. But also, you
Nice.
have to understand something very very simple. We're having a conversation from a Jewish perspective. I'm not a Christian for a number of the reasons that you brought up, but you can't bring a Christian text to
Yeah. Yeah.
justify the Pharisees' authority. Okay, we're having a conversation about from the Torah itself. What justifies
Yeah.
authorities on the Torah? The authorities on the
Yeah.
Torah are people that are speaking in line with the law of Moses and not adding or subtracting to those commandments. The rabbis and their authority is actually a fake authority that they claim is brought on from the high court in the temple, even though there is no actual link to that authority. And at the same time, they don't have authority to just be corrupt and say whatever the hell they want. The reality is that rabbinic literature does not read like a list of court documents. It reads like a bunch of debates, arbitrary opinions between rabbis. And guess what? Arbitrary opinions between rabbis is not the word of God, despite what they say that these and those are the words of the living God, and every rabbi's opinion is the word of the living God. It's not. It's an opinion of a man, and we have every right, as independent Torah followers in exile, as you acknowledged, to question those men who wrote down their opinions 2,000 years ago, and even disagree with them.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I think within Judaism, it's allowed to argue and debate and have different opinions, but you have to you have to prove your work. You have to show that your explanation is better, and
Hmm.
and it's not
And they
that
do
simple.
too.
It's not that simple, but let's go back a little bit. You mentioned what I would like to argue is that you guys claim you're against rabbinic Judaism, but I would argue you guys are rabbinic Jews, both of you. But actually Israel in your description you say you're a rabbi. You say rabbi in
Hmm.
teacher in your
Rabbi
YouTube
is a word for
description. So
teacher.
Yeah,
It
it's
okay,
just
fair
pre-exists the
enough. Yeah.
rabbis that we
I,
know of.
yeah, it's just an accepted word for someone who teaches the Torah. I place no actual
Okay.
stock in it. I'm not certified by any institution. I'm just a teacher of the Torah. That's
You
it.
know, I'll add
Okay.
Yitzchak. My father doesn't have smicha, but the Rav of our shul calls him rabbi. So I don't know what you're on
Yeah.
about.
No. No. I know. I'm just
He's a
playing a little
learned,
bit. But
educated man who's called
what
rabbi by the
what?
rabbis of our shul. So
Yeah.
to this day,
According to the Bali Tshuva, Rabbi, right? It says in the Talmud that Bali Tshuva are called Rabbi. So, anyways,
Okay,
it's
but
it's
again,
it's a term.
you've already
It's a
you've
term.
already digressed from Orthodox Judaism by acknowledging that we can disagree with the rabbi's conclusions. So
No.
you're
No. Okay.
actually
So
not
no.
an Orthodox Jew, it
No.
turns out.
No. So
actually, yes,
so
Maimonides would have
I.
said to push you in a pit and wait for you to die.
Yeah. Not
That's what
exactly, but
Maimonides says
anyways.
about your opinion that you just stated. If you deny the absolute,
No. No.
divinely
Well,
inspired
I
authority of the
caveated.
rabbis and the Torah
I
Shabbal Peh,
caveated. You didn't listen to me because I said it's not exactly that simple. But what I was I didn't finish my point. But what I was saying is that you mentioned, so what I would claim is that you guys are acting as your own rabbis,
I'm not
and
acting as my own
and
rabbi.
as a Christian you're placing the authority in, which I think you are leaning Catholic right now. but you're placing the rabbinic
Excuse me,
authority as
what's
the
wrong with being
Catholics.
your own rabbi? What's wrong with being your own rabbi? The Torah
No,
says to
I didn't
read
say
it
that.
and
I didn't
discuss
say
it and
it's
teach it
wrong.
to your children.
No, I didn't say
So
it's
read
wrong.
it,
You
discuss
guys
it, and
said
teach
that.
it to your children. Yeah,
You
I
guys
said it's
said
wrong for individual human beings 2,000 years ago to codify their opinions as binding law for the entire Jewish nation, claiming that it's the revelation from Sinai when it's clearly not.
so. In the beginning, you guys said that you're going against rabbinic Judaism, but I'm just saying. I was just kind of
No,
saying, well, you
rabbinic
guys
Judaism says no.
are creating
Rabbinic
your own
Judaism.
rabbinic Judaism.
No, we are discussing the Torah and the Bible as we are actually told to do. What they do
Okay,
is they
so
say that our authority is binding law of God. You can read Eruvin 22b, I believe, says whoever goes against the words of the rabbis is deserving of death. I'm not saying whoever doesn't listen to my interpretation is deserving of death. I'm saying I have a right to an interpretation, and very often I can deduct through logic and reasoning and textual references that my interpretations are far better than the clown interpretations of the rabbis.
well, let me just take it back,
Hold on a
to
second.
the
I
to the
wanna
Torah.
I wanna I wanna cut this point for a second, okay? Um, and I want to say, Ezekiel, you're in the green room, so we can't hear you, but you're there waiting because we're in the middle. But if you wait, I'll pull you up when we're done with Yitzchak, and then you can come up. But if you keep going in and out, I'm just going to ban you because it's distracting. Um,
So I just wanted to.
hold on.
I've
No,
listened.
we're taking this to a conversation that has nothing to do with the
No,
topic
I
even.
want to. I want
So,
to take it back to the
Jewish.
Torah. What the Torah says
Hold on a
about the
second.
authority of the rabbis.
Hold on a second. Jewish orthodoxy has certain binding aspects that you must adhere to be considered part of the Jewish community. Okay? There are certain universals, even from Reform rabbi women who perform mitzitza in some capacity with a tube during a circumcision, because it's a binding rabbinic ordinance. So we know that there are established norms in Jewish orthodoxy today, and we're saying that far even before that, Judaism became corrupted, completely different from what Scripture says about what the Jewish people should be following. Okay, so my question is this: why should I, as somebody who has found Christianity, or Israel as somebody who is his own authority on the Bible, why should we follow the rabbis? Now, I want a caveat here. Now, I'm going to say certain things about rabbis saying things in the Talmud. I don't believe that half of these were even said by those rabbis, because it's written down by, I think it's, what is it, Rav Ashi in the 5th century, or Rava. Sorry, it's Rava and Ravina, right? Are the compilers. So they're writing in the 6th century about what rabbis in the 1st century said. Some of it may be legitimate, some of it not. We do know that there are earlier things in the Mishnah that obviously are earlier. But for example, they're citing Rabban Gamliel, who's 1st century, or just before the 1st century, talking about how he determines a woman's status of virginity for marital purposes. And his belief is that if you sit a young woman on a barrel of wine and smell her breath, this should indicate to you if she's a virgin or not. Okay? Now, explain to me, please, why I should take any opinions by that rabbi cited as legitimate in any capacity.
Okay, so I wanted to take it back to the first, basics of what the Torah says. So I listened to a conversation that you did, Israel, with the rabbi, and with another rabbi, and you mentioned that that the application of losasor, right? Like, do not stray from the right or the left of what the priest, the Levi, and the judge says to you, right? The Torah of Moses says that we're not allowed to stray to left or right from what the judge tells us to do, right? And that's part of the basis
in the place that God chooses.
Can we go back to the question that I just asked you? Because it's on the topic of conversation.
Yeah, I'm addressing the authority of the rabbis. So so you said that it's in the place, but I want to bring it to,
I didn't say that. The Torah says that.
Yeah, you're right. There is, that is part of that particular passage, but I want to actually look at the last parsha, which is Yitro, that we read.
I have to interrupt. Do you follow the ordinance in Judaism that you should not engage with heretics unless you are well versed in the topic that was set forth by, I think, Rav Idit in Masechet Sanhedrin?
I think I'm well versed. So
okay.
Maybe
did you get
this
authority
is a big
from
mistake,
your rabbi?
but like I said,
did you get authority from your rabbi to do it?
I didn't. I didn't have time to ask, so guess
Well,
it's the
I hope you don't get in trouble
Did
for
you
that.
ask your rabbi if you're allowed to eat
the
chicken for dinner tonight?
call of the moment. But anyways, so the in the last
Yes,
parsha
Yitro,
Yitro,
Moses created a system of judges on the advice of his
yeah, judges
father-in-law.
of
Your point
1,000,
being,
judges of hundreds, fifties, and tens. So
Mhm.
these are judges that are given authority, and this is not in Jerusalem, in the place that God sets His name. This is in the wilderness. This is
Mhm.
after Yetziat Mitzrayim. So your logic that only judges can only have authority inside the land of Israel or in only in Jerusalem in the Sanhedrin, that doesn't apply clearly in this case. And
I'm
I'll
not
just
saying that we shouldn't have systems of governments and we shouldn't have court systems. However, there's a specific
that's what
authority
the
of
rabbis are.
Deuteronomy 17. No. There's a specific authority of Deuteronomy 17 that's actually punishable by death if you go against them. And they are considered
Yeah.
to be a very severe court. What you're describing is communities actually forming themselves and having court systems. However, my main point is, first of all, that the Jewish community is not unified in any real way, in any meaningful way. And the reality is that governments and court systems can become corrupted. And what I'm pointing out to you is that the rabbis absolutely function as the leaders for the Jewish people. What I'm pointing out to you is that there is corruption in their leadership and that their interpretations and their judgments are flawed, and I can demonstrate that, and that we're actually not bound by their authority because, first of all, their authority doesn't exist, and second of all, their authority has been
Well, wait,
corrupted.
Well, you it sounded like you were affirming their authority and what the Torah says that they
I
have.
was
That
affirming the
they
need for creating justice systems.
Yeah, well,
Doesn't mean that just
that's what
because I proclaim myself a judge, now I'm a good judge.
so
They're
you say
self-proclaimed leaders.
you're a Karaite,
Mhm.
right? So that means you accept the prophets, you accept the Nevi'im.
Not if they contradict Moses, but yeah, I accept them.
Okay, so well, what is that? So which prophets do you accept and which ones do you reject the I mean the Navi, I mean Tanakh?
I accept them all as being very great people. I just don't think that their books and their authorities can contradict Moses. And that's a standard that the Torah sets in place. And if a prophet comes to you and tells you to worship other gods, change the law, you should not listen to him.
Right. Okay. So I don't like expect to convince you. I mean, you guys are pretty set in your position. So, but I would just say that like you guys.
Okay,
Okay. So
so let's on the same
I'll go
topic of
back to what
authority
you're
though, because
saying, which is that
but
I'll go back to what you're saying is
hold
that
on a sec. Hold on a second. Hold
Yeshua
on.
said to
Hold on.
in Matthew 23.
Hold on a
Can I
second.
just finish this thought and then I'll be
Sure.
done? Like I don't. Okay. Matthew 23 says Yeshua says that, or whatever they describes the Pharisee sin, Moses seat. Paul said he was a Pharisee in Acts 23 at the end of his life. So whatever they tell you to observe, that observe do. You said that they had the most knowledge
Which
of how to
Pharisees?
interpret. Huh?
Which Pharisees?
Paul was brought under Rabban Gamliel, so
Okay.
that's what he
Does
says.
that mean,
So
does that mean all
Beit
Pharisees
Hillel.
forever have authority?
Yeah, I think so because he said that he affirmed what the Torah says that there's a system of judges which Israel affirmed too that Israel has a system of
So if
judges
I
that is
say,
established by the
so if
Torah
I
itself.
say, hold on a second. If I say Donald Trump is president, does that mean he's president forever? Just because I said those words? Donald Trump is president. If he makes an executive order, unless it's overruled by the Supreme Court, you have to abide by his executive order.
Trump has a term
Does that
limit.
mean that any statement that Donald Trump makes for the next 50 years is binding on anyone?
No, Trump has a term limit, but the judges don't have a term limit as far as
Who said?
the system, the Masorah.
Who's determining
right,
the
because
system that you're coming up with?
They say that about their own authority. That's the
Right.
convenient part, right? They say about their own
but
authority
you say that
it
about
cannot
your
be
own authority.
changed.
So
No,
you say
I'm
that
not saying
about your
anything
own
about my
authority.
authority. I'm not saying anything about my
Yeah,
authority.
you do.
I'm
You say
saying,
that you have the authority to decide what the Torah says, and
Yeah,
you
the
no, I
Torah
have the
says he
authority
has that
to read the
authority.
Torah. No. I
Yeah,
have the
you
Torah
authority
says he
to
has that
read the
authority.
Torah
Yeah,
and
but
understand it. Okay,
but what
they don't
happens
have
when
the authority to enforce their
what
law on
happens
me
when
unless I
someone
lived.
disagrees with you, Israel? What happens when the
We
community
have a
disagrees with you?
conversation. We have a conversation.
Okay, but what happens when there needs to be legislation, when there has to be adjudication of a law?
We have to
Who's
figure
right?
that out. We have
Okay,
to figure
well,
that out
that's what the
through court
rabbis did.
systems.
That's what the
Well,
rabbis are.
they did a
Again,
very
They
fucking
figured it
bad
out.
job. That's my
Yeah,
whole point. They did a very
neither
bad job.
neither of us
But
has denied the
you
need
have
for.
the burden of proof because
Hold on a
you
second.
said that we need to have unity. So the
Neither
Jewish
of us
people
has
have unity
denied the
because
need for
we
authority
subscribe
figures
to the
to rule on the
rabbis. We
law.
subscribe to the authority passed
Okay,
down from the Navi,
you're
from the
talking to
Nevi'im,
yourself at this
from
point.
the prophet.
Just
You're
because
talking to
you can
yourself at this point.
point to
Israel,
an
give me a sec.
authority that exists in
Israel,
the
give me a
void of
sec.
authority. Mhm.
Okay.
I'm listening.
So neither of us has denied the need for authorities at any point. We're denying
No,
the
you
system
have
developed
your
by
own
the
rabbi.
rabbis for exegesis and how they come to determine Jewish law. Now, I'll ask you, this is going to be the last thing that I want to cover for this conversation here, okay? The statement, Israel's better at this part than I am, but do not stray from the left or to the right to anything that they, not to anything that they tell you, to stray from the left or the right for anything that is written, right? There's that, but then there's also the statement that's used to establish authority. So do not rule to the majority for evil, right? The rabbis take that and say you should rule for the majority for good, which is not inherently explicit. But can I ask you on that? So let's say we took that as truth, that yes, you do rule according to the majority for good. How do you know what good is? How do you know if they're ruling for the good or for
How
the
do you
evil?
know what good is?
Yeah, if they're the rulers who are determining what's good, and you're only allowed to follow them for the good, wouldn't that mean that the majority is always right, even if they did evil, because they're determining what's good?
Well, I think you're saying that you alone have the ability to decide what's
I didn't
good
say
or
that,
evil.
but you didn't answer my question.
But I would say that that's...
You didn't answer my question.
Okay, well, that's what I said. What's good is
okay.
what...
This is, you're playing whataboutism. I'm saying the rabbis say this and this and this. Here's why it doesn't make sense to me. Can you give me an answer to this? And you're going back to a whataboutism with two people that both disagree with you, who both believe in the Bible from two different traditions. Okay.
I would say that's the authority that God has given.
Okay.
That
so if a group of rabbis get together as the authority, the Beit Din for the area, and rule that you should start, a guy broke Shabbat, and now you should all as a collective group start tearing him open and drinking his blood, and the majority has ruled that. How do you know that you shouldn't do that?
But we know within Judaism that you're not allowed to follow such a court.
How do you know that?
Rabbis because if they explicitly violate the Torah,
yes,
go on, Torah deoraisa, right? If they violate the mitzvot deoraisa, like the clear,
how do you know what's violating the mitzvot deoraisa if those rabbis are the authority on it?
Because it's written down. We have a Masorah, we have a tradition of what's written down.
So if they contradict what's written down,
well, we have the Shulchan Aruch, we have the Mishnah Torah,
written,
we have
written in the 5 books
Torah
of Moses.
Yeah, the oral Torah that was written down, Torah Shebe'al Peh that was written down.
No, that's not what it says. It says the oral Torah. You're adding. It says don't listen to them for evil. You're determining what's good or evil based on what they've told you as a majority, which is self-contradictory. And then you're citing a book that didn't exist till millennia afterwards to justify why it's okay, when the internal document is contradicting you.
Remember, the internal document says, the internal document says, follow everything that is written in this Torah. In Deuteronomy 32, it says that Moses,
and
it says Moses, one second. It says that Moses completed the Torah in writing and follow everything that is written in this Torah. That is the standard that everyone needs to follow, including all judges for all time. If they are telling you truthful judgments that are in line with God. Have you ever heard of something called a revolution, sir? Have you ever heard of something called a revolution? Okay, what I'm telling you is akin to a revolution. The authorities of Judaism are corrupt. They are lying about the text. They are making judgments that have... Let me finish my sentence. They are making judgments that have no foundation in the text whatsoever. They're making assertions about their own authority that are completely detached from reality. And so what I'm telling you is, as a man who lives in the United States, I have absolutely no reason to follow the rabbi's conclusions, and I will continue to follow the Torah as God instructed me to do so.
Yeah, me too. But let me just say this: that
you don't, though. You follow rabbis.
God instructed us to follow the authority of the judges that was instituted.
Not if the judges are corrupt.
To follow them to evil.
Yeah, but
God said, "Do not follow them for evil."
Let me respond to your assertion there. Let me respond to your assertion. So you say they're corrupt. Now,
after this, I'm going to close out and go to the next guest.
Was that Ashmaze? You said that the scribes and Pharisees sat in Moses' seat, and you should have told them to observe whatever they tell you to observe and do, because they knew they knew better how to interpret.
I mean,
how to
did you see the other
Torah.
things that
So
Jesus
let
said
me.
about the Pharisees? Jesus
Can
was
I finish
cursing
my?
those
Can I
people out
finish
all
my
day.
point? Yeah, he was accusing them of hypocrisy. Okay, he was calling out their
Not
hypocrisy.
only.
So
And
because
their fake
he literally
laws.
says, because they say but they don't do. But whatever they say, you
They
must observe and
bind
do. That's what he
burdens
says.
that they do not
Whatever they
themselves
tell you
keep.
to observe, that observe and do.
Why
That's
did
what
he
he
refer
says.
to
He
their
says they
laws?
say,
Why did
but
he
they don't
refer
do
to their
because they're
traditions
hypocrites.
as
But let me
binding
just
burdens?
say this.
Why
You
did he?
guys have the burden
No,
of proof
you don't.
because
No, you're just
no. Let me just
filibustering.
finish.
You're just
Let me just finish.
filibustering. You're
No, I'm
just
not. No, I'm not.
filibustering and not willing
No,
to
I'm
be
not.
corrected when you're lying, though.
I'm not lying.
You
So
are lying about what the text says.
how am I lying?
He
Also,
explicitly
I quoted the passage,
disregards
dude.
their authority as binding. He says, listen to them when they're talking about the law of Moses. That's it.
He says, whatever they tell you to observe, that observe.
On the law of Moses. And then he goes on to call them hypocrites who bind burdens
As
on you
Pharisees.
that they themselves don't keep.
but again,
As
you're a
Pharisees.
Jew who
But let
left
me
Christianity,
let me
so it's very rich for you
let
to
me
bring
just
arguments from Christian texts. We're having a conversation from the Torah
Yeah, it does.
internally, and the reality is
okay.
that you cannot.
But
Like
let me
by the way,
just
1 second, you never had an answer to Ash's point. What if they said to
I
drink people's blood who break Shabbat, and they said it's written down in our oral Torah, so it's fine because it's written down in our oral Torah. Now you have to follow them? No, the reality is that the written Torah is the standard for all time, and whoever deviates from that to the right or the left, whoever adds or subtracts, is clearly not following the Torah. Yes, there are cases that come up. There is case law, and if, God willing, there is a unified people of Israel, there will be court systems that adjudicate law in accordance with the Torah's law, not in accordance with their own made-up nonsense where they could add thousands of laws to the Torah and pretend that they're actually representing the Torah. They contradict the Torah on a constant basis, and they make things up, and that is clearly not the authority that the Torah is referring to. And again, right now, no one is actually under their authority unless you're part of their community. So if you want to be part of Rabbinic Judaism, you can convert to be Rabbinic Jew. If you're already circumcised, they'll make sure to poke you again, give your pee a nice little poke so they can draw blood with rabbinic intention, even though you're fully circumcised. If that's what you want to do, no one's stopping you. But for you to claim that that's an absolute authority that you need to follow based off of the law of God is just not true. And you already admitted that. You said, as Jewish people, we are allowed to have debates about the law and come to different conclusions. So you already went against the rabbi's authority for saying that.
Well, I let you finish, but I wasn't able to finish. I was trying to finish my thought, but I wasn't able to finish. So could you please let me finish, and then I will.
I think we are gonna move on to the next guest, though.
Well,
But
can I just finish one thought, and then
no,
I'll,
you've
I'm
said the same
very
thought
happy
multiple
to.
times without responding to any of my
No,
thoughts.
no,
So that's not really
you
a
guys didn't
discussion.
let me finish the thought, and I was
I
trying to finish the thought,
appreciate the
which is
respectful
why I brought up
dialogue, though.
Matthew 23.
Ezekiel, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, very nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I just want to quickly say thank you to Jack Ray for sending a number of memberships. Yep, Ezekiel, we can hear you.
Yeah,
What's
well,
your background?
okay. I don't know how exactly to define myself. I would say that I lean more Orthodox if I had to choose among major movements. But I'm not exactly Orthodox.
Okay. But you come from a rabbinic Jewish tradition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, what's your argument?
So I think that from the conversation that I just witnessed, and I'm sorry for how it turned out. It didn't sound very good. It was a mess. But it's better to address one at the time, one of you at the time, because it's totally different.
Just based on what you said, I just want to add to that point. I have the utmost respect for my fellow Jews who stayed in Judaism and practiced Judaism. As people, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong. I think people naturally stay in the traditions they're brought up in. Most people don't want to hear any contradictory arguments, and there's nothing inherently evil about a Jew being Jewish and practicing Jewish beliefs. I will say that people who go from Christianity to Judaism and to being Noahides, in my experience, are some of the most psychotic, unhinged people I've ever met in my life. But I'm not sure why that is, but...
Hot take.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Well, I really like both of your channels, even though I disagree, but I listen to you quite a lot. And it's very interesting because I like theological topics and all these kind of debates.
Yeah.
I don't know who of you do you want me to begin with?
Whoever you want
Whoever
to
you
talk to.
like.
Okay. Uh, with Israel, um, I don't think I like the intention of your position, but I don't think it could be scaled at a big scale because everybody will eventually reach different conclusions. So you can have a community working like that directly from the written Torah only.
Israel, you see, he's trying to divide us. He's trying to
Okay.
make the case for Catholicism.
I see that. I see that. So yeah, here's the response very quickly. What the Torah says explicitly is what we're all bound by unquestionably. When it comes to matters of doubt, which by the way are not as much as you think there are, because the rabbis thrive off of creating doubt out of nothing, kind of like how liberals say, what is a man? What is a woman? As if we don't already know. So that's kind of the rabbi's tactic to break down truth and make you question what's in front of you. In fact, one of the rabbis claimed that if the rabbis tell you your left is your right and your right is your left, you should listen to them. So let's say we assume that we understand language and we can read clearly, we can understand words, and we're all working with the intention of following God. What is written in the Torah explicitly has to be implemented immediately. When it comes to matters of doubt and dispute, those doubts and disputes have to be had, and we have to have those discussions. However, when it comes to the explicit penalties in the Torah, we'd only be able to implement those penalties in a case of certainty. So, for example, let's say we have a debate whether you're allowed to write on Shabbat, right? Are you allowed to write on Shabbat? Well, that's not something the Torah talks about. That's not actual work, especially if you're not, let's say, writing for a column or for work. Then just because someone chooses not to write on Shabbat, or someone chooses to write on Shabbat, we're not going to put someone to death for a matter of doubt. However, if someone goes and openly breaks Shabbat and starts plowing his field, or opens his shop, or goes and lights a big fire in his front yard, then we can actually know that we punish him by the letter of the law because he's openly and clearly breaking Shabbat. So in cases of doubt, there is gray area. And the problem is that people seem to struggle with gray area. Gray area is a natural part of life. It's a natural part of religion, especially in the time that we're in now, where there is no unified Israel, there is no Torah court, there is no prophecy and communication with God. We have to follow to the best of our conclusions.
Okay, with the death penalty cases, do you agree with the idea of the two witnesses that have to be like perfectly not related and
that's
have
all
to
rabbinic. That's
see
all
it
rabbinic
independently?
It's all rabbinic
Okay, so
qualifiers. The
how
rabbis
should
say that women aren't kosher witnesses and all these things. Remember, you have to understand, not every opinion is created equal. Okay, we have the ability to boot out opinions if they have no connection to reality. So the reality is we have to have these discussions and we have to clarify things.
Okay, how would you define a witness in those cases?
Being who's in his right mind or her right mind.
One is enough.
What is
for death
considered
penalty,
the right mind? Is one witness enough for the death penalty? No, the Torah says 2 or 3 witnesses. That's explicit.
Then you have a standard.
That's not my standard. It's the Torah's standard. The Torah creates all these standards. Again, for most people don't understand that the Torah is extremely detailed and specific. It's only people that have a vested interest in confusing you that will tell you that the Torah is not understandable without them, thereby creating a need for them to come in and control you with their authority. But the Torah is actually very clear.
The Torah also, in the Pshat, lets you do it yourself. Sometimes when you see an injustice, people act and do it, and it's considered righteous in some instances.
Where? As far as I'm concerned, the Torah talks about having witnesses and having a court case, having judges and law enforcement.
You know about Pinchas, what he does?
Yes. Well, that was a very specific situation. And
okay, but you could learn from that.
You'd be taking a gamble with rabbis, or you can be taking a gamble with God. It's a big thing to do. But that was a specific scenario when the Israelites were in the desert and there was something going on, and God valued that action of zealotry.
And guess what was going on at the time? Their leadership was corrupt and not following the Torah.
Could you believe it? That's a possibility, it turns out.
Yeah.
And what would you do with a rebellious son if you had?
I think the Torah is very
as it
clear
says
that
in the Torah.
a rebellious son who's properly warned and is actually rebellious enough gets put to death. The rabbis say that that's impossible to fulfill, but the Torah makes it very clear that that is a thing. The rabbis go so far as to say, unless the parents are the same height and have the same voice, or some like absurd qualifications, then you can't do it. Of course, those are not internal in the text at all. So yes, the Torah is a very serious book, and it's not for the faint of heart.
So yes, you would do it if you notice your son is being rebellious.
Yeah. There's a warning that has to go on, but there's disciplinary measures that you take. But if the child is completely rebellious, listen, remember, all these things act as deterrents as well. It says the people should hear and fear and not sin again. Evil should be erased. When you challenge evil in a truthful and harsh manner, you actually erase the evil, and it serves as a deterrent. People wouldn't go and misbehave if they understood the consequences for that behavior.
And do you think that from the start the Torah was intended to be read individually and not addressed to the general community?
I mean, the Torah itself says, read these words, teach them to your children, speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk on the way, when you arise, when you go to sleep. The Torah says it's in your mouth and in your heart. All of these things are close to you. They're accessible, and there are obligations on each and every individual to have these understandings.
And when do you think that the people went away from the correct way to see it? Because
All the
before
time, right
the
away.
rabbis,
Yeah, before the rabbis, they were worshiping Baal and Molech, and now they're just worshiping Rabbi Akiva. It's, what's new? Nothing new under the sun, as King Solomon said. But the Israelites have been in constant denial of God and rebelling against God. There have only been very few times where Israel was following God, and those were actually some of the most blessed times for Israel.
As it turns out, people are still worshiping Molech and Baal, by the way. So.
Of course. It comes in many forms. The point is, anyone who's not God is, by definition, going to lead you away from God. And in this case, when you give blind faith and unquestionable adherence to a man-made system that is entirely dependent on its own, it's a self-proclaimed authority. You're robbing yourself of the ability to come close to God as an individual.
How do you define, for example, what is matzah, what is chametz?
Matzah is unleavened bread, and chametz is leavened bread.
But which grains do you consider?
I like the chametz thing being brought up, because I'd have to ask, given the Torah's response to those who eat leavened on Passover, would you say that most of the Jewish world today, who comes from any kind of Baal Teshuvah background, or was ever not religious or didn't keep the laws, that they are permanently cut off from the Jewish people? Why do you accept them if they ate leavened on Passover?
Are you asking Israel or me? Or?
No, I'm asking you, Ezekiel. If the Torah says that somebody who eats leavened on Passover is cut off from the Jewish people, why are you accepting people that are Jews who ate leavened on Passover as part of the Jewish community today?
But how is that determined nowadays? Would you need witnesses? We don't know.
Your buddy's not religious, ate some chametz in front of you on Pesach?
Like, in front of you and another witness.
The shul,
In practice, that is not... it's not acted upon.
Why is it not acted upon? It's the Torah. It's a deoraita.
I don't think we have a sufficient authority now. We could have Beit Din Gadol again and enforce more of what we are supposed to be enforcing. But
see, Israel and I will have two different approaches to this. Israel will tell you, yeah, they should be cut off from the Jewish people. And I would tell you, obviously, the law is a burden that cannot be fulfilled and was relevant for its time with a standing temple and no longer relevant in that capacity. Has changed into something else by God himself. But whichever way you want to go with, whether you go with Israel's way or my way, you shouldn't have Jews who ate leavened on Passover as part of your community, according to the Torah.
according to the Torah, that's why I'm asking Israel. How do you
Well, yeah.
determine who is
Mhm.
out, who is not?
I mean, yeah, just to throw your little olive branch here, I think the rabbis do have a logical understanding, which is that people who were brought up without knowledge of the Torah, so it's as if like they had never had the awareness of the laws. So they're given somewhat of a clean slate to enter the community. But the reality is that the Orthodox community is not being governed by the laws of the Torah, um, mostly because they can't. You can't actually fulfill the laws of the Torah in any secular democracy, which actually go against the laws of the Torah. So that's why I'm saying the authority is non-existent. The rabbinic courts are not actually carrying out Torah law. They're just a bunch of rabbis who are self-obsessing over the like little tiny details that are made up and have nothing to do with what's written in the Torah. The reality is that if we wanted to have a system governed by the Torah, that would require an entirely free piece of land that was governed only by the laws of the Torah. That's never been done. So we actually have to start from scratch when it comes to that. But as far as you asked about the chametz, like the whole idea the rabbis list 5 grains as the only grains that can be leavened is obviously not true. There's more than 5 grains that can be leavened. But the Torah is very clear that it's referring to bread. So any dough that's been leavened is going to be a problem on Passover. What's interesting is though that the Jews will eat leavened potato cakes, which they take potato flour or let's say rice flour and then they leaven it with baking soda, baking powder, and then they eat a big cake and a big loaf of bread because it's not one of the 5 grains. I find that to be quite hypocritical because at the end of the day, the Torah is saying do not have leavened bread. And that's really the standard that the Torah puts in place.
But
Okay,
also
so we are
make sure you
more
also
stringent.
make sure you wash all of your vegetables before Passover, and don't buy any new ones on Passover because there could have been contact with chametz on the skin of the vegetable. Don't forget that
Yeah.
part.
Also, your metal spoon is somehow leavened bread.
But from what I hear from what you said, you are more stringent than the rabbis
Well, in a
on what
in a
is and
way,
what
but
isn't.
but when it comes to beverages, I would say it's fine because
I
it's
think
not
both of
bread.
us are more stringent than the rabbis. It's just a matter of how you apply covenant. So again, Israel and I will disagree on what is the binding covenant on us. But for the things that are being expressed, Israel is far more truthful to the Torah than the rabbis. And from a Christian perspective, on the moral law, we're a lot more strict than the rabbis on the moral law. There's no loophole to get out of a moral law,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's the whole point, which is that the rabbis add and subtract. People think they only add, which they add thousands of things, but they also subtract, like the rebellious son, like an eye for an eye, like many other points where they say that as long as you're not going against one of the 39 malachas, you can do whatever you want on Shabbat. Whereas like the Torah's definition of work is simultaneously more broad than the rabbinic definition, but also way way removed from what these people are doing. So, look, that's the bottom line. We have to be able to have these dialogues. The Torah opens the door for us to have dialogue, and the rabbis close the door for that dialogue when they say that you have to listen to our conclusions. And that's really the problem here, which is that we are an exiled people who is existing in a state where we're removed from the land, we're removed from a place where God rests his name, we're removed from all of these things that are conditional for having a functional Torah government. So you're an individual somewhere in the world, and if you find value in the Torah and you want to follow those commandments, you have to do them to the best of your ability and just read what it says and follow it literally. And yeah, we can have disagreements, but that's not the end of the world. What we agree upon is what really matters. Who is God? What does he want from us? What are the 10 commandments? Are you going to be a moral person? So, if my matzah is a bit thicker than yours, I don't think that's really our problem here.
But for example, on the Ten Commandments, you have to know who is committing adultery. So you have
The
to
Torah clarifies
define
that very clearly.
marriage
No, no,
in
no,
some
no, no.
way.
No. Marriage is defined as the Torah by a man taking a wife as his wife, taking a woman. They proclaim themselves to be married. They say, we are married. She is my wife. They are now living under matrimony. They are husband and wife who proclaim themselves to be married. Everyone knows about it. They're living together as a functioning life. And the Torah defines adultery very clearly as a man sleeping with his fellow's wife.
Just to clarify for somebody in the chat, Israel is a Torah only, akin to Karaite Jew, and I am a Christian who is also Jewish.
I know. I think it's like it's reasonable to think historically how it developed, what we have now, what is actually enforced, it has to do with conversions, marriage and divorce, and not much more. If you go to a Beit Din nowadays,
Yeah,
and
again, it's
I
not
don't see
all of the
why.
things, all of the processes that they put you through are not Torah-based processes. They are manufactured rituals and laws that the rabbis have created.
Okay, but in your opinion, everybody can be part of Israel if you just follow the
That's
Torah,
not
but
my opinion. That's not my opinion. That's what the Torah says. I read in the
someone
beginning,
else could
Leviticus
be
19:34.
someone could look at it uh, the opposite way completely and say that only if you are a descendant of the
No, they
original
can't. You
people, you.
can't. That's false. 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 The Torah says multiple times
And
over
if
and
that's
over
the
again.
criteria, you have a really big problem because you're giving so much ammunition to the anti-Semites on the "who is a Jew" question. There, that's a
Yeah.
No,
that's a
I don't agree
problematic road to go
with
down.
any of those
No,
extremes,
but
but
again,
that's my
you
point.
are,
You have to have
sir,
an agreement,
you
a
are,
consensus.
no, but you are saying that there are doubts that are actually not doubts, because the Torah explicitly says that non-native Israelites who live among Israel are part of the covenant and are under the law of the Torah and should be welcomed and loved and accepted as part of the nation. It couldn't be clearer in the Torah itself. So don't
Not
tell me that that's a
harassed to
doubt.
go through a rabbinic conversion process that is unbiblical. In fact,
Exactly.
that puts a mitzvah derabanan superseding a deoraita, which by rabbinic standards itself is not allowed. And so it's a self-contradictory system when it comes to religious conversion in Judaism.
Of course, they would claim that it's such a merit. You're so lucky to go through the rabbinic conversion process.
They made
But it's actually really
leadership of
just
the
a
Ethiopian
humiliation.
Jewish community convert, even though they're one of the oldest traceable lineages of Jews in the world today. They had to go through rabbinic conversion in Israel.
It's just a humiliation ritual. As I told you, they poke your penis again, even if you were already circumcised.
Do you think that Moses wrote, including the part where he tells about his death?
The last paragraph of the Torah? I don't think it matters.
No, but what do you think?
I don't know. It could have been him. It could have been someone else. It really doesn't matter. There's no laws there. It's just telling you what happened when he died.
So you think all of the laws in the written Torah must come from Moses,
God. Well, they don't come from Moses. They come from God to Moses, where Moses
but
completes it in
also
writing
written
and
by,
says, do not add or subtract to these commandments.
because those are different things. Some people might read directly without a tradition, and they conclude that there are many writers of the different laws.
Yeah, they are secular materialist scientists who also think that God doesn't exist. They also think that men can become women and women can become men. The same institutions of
Not
higher
necessarily.
education say some of the most retarded things I've ever heard in my life. So I don't really care what people say. I read the Torah and it's a very clear, seamless narrative to me. I can see that it was one man who wrote it. I can see the clarity of the narrative. I can see it referencing back to itself. And I think the Torah is absolutely complete. And again, it always comes down to this, by the way, sir. When I talk to Orthodox Jews, they really just expose that they're closet atheists, because if we don't have the rabbi's authority, who says the Torah is from God at all? It's like, listen, what do you actually believe? Do you like the rabbis don't exist without the Torah? Do you understand that? Their entire authority is predicated on the Torah being true. So if you believe in the rabbis, you absolutely have to believe in the Torah. That comes first.
Yeah, I agree. I'm
So,
just testing the limits,
you
because
can always test the limits. Remember, we live in a world where people question everything, and not always to their own benefit. The reality is, yeah. Go ahead, Ash. You're muted, by the way.
I'm like, why are you guys interrupting me on my own show? But it was because I was muted. See how polite I am. I didn't even get angry about it. Washed Mickey says Karaite Jew kind of based should become a Christian Jew. There's actually a long history of people that go to Karaite and then Christianity. It's kind of a trend.
I was just reading about the Nicholas Dunnan guy.
Yeah.
He's the example there.
Okay, so my point is that I think it's more reasonable to think that the text is primarily for a living community, addressed at a living community, not at any individual. Even when it was written, most people could not read, and you have to rely on some authority. And it naturally evolved the way until now. The details can be discussed. Many things are arbitrary. Many things are contradictory, but of what the rabbi
So
said.
again,
But
so
the whole point is,
why do you say that people didn't know the Torah if the Torah says, speak of these words when you sit in your house, when you walk on the way, when you lay down, and when you arise, and teach them diligently to your children. And the law is actually written on your mouth and in your heart, and it's accessible to you, and no one else needs to get it for you, not across the sea, not in the heavens. No one else needs to get it for you. This is accessible to you as an individual personally with God. So that's what the Torah says about itself.
yes, but we agree that most people committed idolatry and did all sorts of things they were
Yeah,
not supposed to
and that
do.
was
So
their downfall, and that's not something that's vague in the Torah. The Torah is abundantly clear what constitutes idolatry. So again, if we followed the Torah as it was written, we would all be moral, righteous people who weren't murdering each other and weren't bowing down to stones and weren't being complete moral idiots and fucking our sisters and our mothers. We'd actually be civilized, holy people who were following God. It's not that hard.
yeah.
And by the way, what he
Okay,
just
so
said
that's
sounds a little
the
bit extreme to some people in the chat. You should know that there's huge rates of abortion among the Haredi community in Israel because of permission to have abortions due to incest. So that's one of the readily allowed
Cover it up,
reasons.
huh?
Yeah, that's one of the readily allowed reasons why you can be allowed to have an abortion in Israel. And unfortunately, it happens a lot, and a lot more in the Haredi community than in the secular Jewish community in Israel, which is telling.
okay. So that's the idea.
Yeah,
That's my
yeah.
point.
Yeah, I
I do
appreciate your
agree
tone, and
with your intentions, and
I'll just tell you that the
I think
rabbi's
in a
Judaism
similar
does
way.
not. Mhm. Good. And the rabbi's Judaism does not protect you against doubt. It does not protect you against immorality. The only thing that protects you against immorality is the Torah and actually following what it's written. Again, when you claim that the rabbis create clarity, they do not create clarity. They have arguments whether you can open a bottle cap on Shabbat, whether you can carry your key in your pocket on Shabbat. This is not clarity. These are people that are having very niche, absurd arguments about the Torah, and they're very distant from the text itself. And they have a right to do that, freedom of speech, but we don't have an obligation to follow everything that they say.
Well, my intuition is still that if everybody wants to revive what was supposed to be originally, that many people would not get to the same conclusions as you, and would be
So you are
very different.
sacrificing truth for false uniformity? Is that what you're saying?
No,
That's what it sounds
no.
like you're saying. Sounds like you're saying that because it's too hard for us to read the Torah truthfully, we have to follow a fake authority where the rabbis wrote a Shulchan Aruch and decided these are the opinions of the rabbis of the Talmud you have to follow for all time. I mean, that's a
say
very,
that.
very lame belief system. We have to confront
I don't say that it's
the struggles and
difficult.
challenges in life. One of the challenges is creating societies where we can all agree. But I already gave you a very clear standard. What the Torah says explicitly, that's what we need to follow. And when it comes to matters of doubt and dispute, we have to adjudicate that law. We have to adjudicate that lawfully and honestly, without corruption, without making things up, and we have to leave room for gray area. And one of the things the Torah says is the hidden things are to God and the revealed things are to you and your children to perform everything that is written in this book of the Torah. That's Deuteronomy 29 or 28, depending on which print you read. Okay, so that is the Torah standard. If something's hidden and unknown, and that's for God, leave it to God. Okay, you're not going to know what people are doing behind closed doors all the time. However, there are deterrents, capital punishment, and there are ways for us to come to understandings with one another. And God gives it to us because it's doable and it's accessible. And remember, in a perfect world, we actually have God communicating with us, like Moses in the desert. When they had doubts, they got to go straight to God. We don't have that because God has concealed his face. So if we start to better ourselves, maybe we'll have some help from God.
I think it was intended to be a living system. That doesn't mean that we have to change everything or to change anything, but it has to be what is actually observed by the community.
The community does not dictate truth, as Ash quoted very eloquently from Exodus chapter 23. Do not follow the majority for evil. Do not follow the majority to pervert the law. Okay? The majority does not dictate truth. If Noah followed the community, guess where we'd be? Nowhere. We'd all be drowned under a pile of water. Noah did not follow the community. He followed God and he was saved. That's your salvation, God, not man.
Mhm.
I think we're gonna wrap it up here, Ezekiel. I do appreciate you coming on,
Sorry,
and yeah,
I did want to address your points, but sorry, that took a bit too long. Maybe
you're
we can
welcome.
talk
I'm gonna do
briefly
this again.
about.
You're more than welcome to come back. Um, I think you have a lot of good questions, and I think these are things that people struggle with. I mean, it's not a super simple matter, right? If it was super simple, everyone would be following the same thing. I think there's confusion. I think different opinions and upbringings and attitudes have a huge part to play. It took me a long time, even after reading the New Testament and starting to kind of believe that the New Testament could be telling us the truthful story. It took me a very long time to become a Christian, because I had, layers and layers of filters on that I was viewing things through. So I'm not, again, I don't think that anyone is a fool or an idiot for following their tradition or their rabbis necessarily. It's a matter of how honest are you with yourself about what it is that you're following. I think that it's a fundamentally impossible position to hold when there's so much internal contradiction as to the nature of the authority, right? How you place Torah Sheba'al Peh versus Torah Shebichtav, D'Oraita versus D'Rabanan. Somebody keeps saying you should debate Yehuda Yisrael. Yehuda Yisrael came on and threw a tantrum on my show, and then
Yeah, same here. Also,
following.
I don't even think he shows his face. That guy. He's
Yeah, he
just a
doesn't show his
coward.
face. He's a bit of a stalker. He gets obsessive over people. He doesn't leave them alone for years at a time. Probably some deep mental health issues at play, which is why I'm not going to indulge him anymore. And Asher Meza, we've also both had conversations with, and in my conversation with Asher Meza, he admitted that he admitted that his belief is that God does not actually know the future. So I don't know if it's worth having the conversation again. But Ezekiel, essentially, I think that when you have a system that says, no, we absolutely affirm the written Torah, but then the written Torah says that you should treat converts a certain way, and then the rabbinic tradition tells you to treat them other than that, and have different systems that would abuse them if they didn't follow you in your beliefs, that's a self-contradictory position. Somebody's confused now. Asher Meza or Ash Meza? Asher Meza. And Meza isn't my real last name. That's, I guess, I didn't know about Asher Meza when I made the channel. So, but I think there's a lot of internal contradictions that become incredibly problematic. And I think that the reason I'm sitting here with Israel and I disagree on covenantal theology and what the fulfillment of the Bible is and so on. But at the end of the day, I think he has a much more intellectually honest position. I think there are historical issues we could debate, and I'm sure that we'll get to that at some point in a friendly debate. Might get a little bit heated, but I think he's being more intellectually honest. He's saying, well, we have to follow the Torah, but the rabbis are obviously wrong, so I'm going to do my best. Right? I think that's a much more intellectually honest position to come from than, well, let's have consensus for the sake of consensus, even though it literally tells us to do insane things that have nothing to do with what the Bible has said. And in some cases, I'm saying literally insane, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's insane to take a glass tube and suck blood out of a child's circumcision wound. That's just psychotic.
Yeah. Someone's asking, by the way, what is the Torah? The Torah is the 5 books of Moses. It's the first 5 books of the Bible. Take whatever Bible you have.
Some people
open it to the
say
beginning.
Torah to refer to all of the Hebrew scripture, but it means the 5 books of Moses.
Well, they say Tanakh. Tanakh is Torah, Nevi'im,
Right.
Ketuvim, which is Torah, prophets, and writings. But the Torah itself is just the 5 books of Moses.
Yeah, the
And
people that
that's-
most likely make that distortion and say Torah and refer to all the prophets and writings as well are usually Orthodox rabbis, funny enough.
Of course. Well, actually, they refer to the halacha in every rabbinic book as Torah. So
Right.
no matter what any rabbi has said at any point in history, it's all Torah. And so when they tell you they're sitting in yeshiva all day learning Torah, no, they're actually learning Talmud.
In your case, why do you believe that? I don't know if you want me to continue with.
Yeah, we can go on for another minute if it's okay.
Okay. When you read that Jesus fulfilled the law, supposedly, why do you interpret it as that it is finished and not that it is being followed correctly? I think that is the most straightforward reading.
So I think that Jesus fulfilling the law gets confused a lot. It does not mean that the law did not apply or that he didn't affirm it during his lifetime before the crucifixion. The Torah had its purpose, just like God had certain relationships with Abraham that changed at Sinai, and then those relationships changed further at different times with different prophets. I think that the Torah was an important thing and continues to be an important thing to point us towards Jesus. If we believe the presupposition is that Jesus is not God, therefore, if he changes anything to do with the covenant, therefore it's false. But essentially, the claim is that Jesus is God. It doesn't necessarily work that way, which rabbis can't have trouble wrapping their head around since the first century. You have Emmanuel Shochet going on one of the most vile rants I've ever heard from a human being in my life. And unfortunately, his accent makes it sound very, very Hitlery. But talking about how Jesus rebuked the fig tree and Jesus rebuked all these people and he was such a nasty guy and nobody comes to the Father except through me. That's one of the worst things you can say. It's like, but the claim is that he's God. Have you read the Old Testament, the way that God talks? You'd have to presuppose, you can't use the way he talks to prove that he's not God. You'd have to use some other proof, right? It can't just be he doesn't say nice things. And it's just, it's actually the rabbinic system towards Judaism that is completely circular, right? Israel, again, has a much more valid claim against Christianity, right? He doesn't accept any of the traditions at all of early Judaism, even that would point you to Christ, even from a Jewish perspective. So he doesn't even accept those. So it would be much more difficult for him, actually, than a rabbinic Jew in that sense. In other senses, maybe easier. But he has a more intellectually honest position. He's going, I'm denying all of Jewish tradition as authoritative in any capacity if it doesn't sound exactly like the Torah says. Whereas a rabbinic Jew actually has things that point to the same kinds of concepts found in Christianity about covenantal beliefs. We have another guest on. Do you want to follow up with that just for 1 minute, and then I'm going to get the next guest on?
No, I have like a long list of questions, but
I'll do another stream in the next couple of weeks. If you want to come on when I'm actually talking about Christianity specifically, I'd be happy to have you back on. It was a pleasure.
Okay.
God bless.
Right? God bless, man.
Thank you. You too.
Before we pull up Ellie, for the person in the chat that said, because I'm Catholic, I'm not Christian, however that makes sense, little music for you.
After the stone was sealed by the Jews, and while the soldiers were watching your spotless body, you rose a Savior on the third day, bestowing life to the world. Therefore, the heavenly powers cried out to you, O giver of life. Glory to your resurrection, O Christ. Glory to your kingdom. Glory to your economy. O you who alone are the lover of mankind. Hail, full of grace, Virgin and Mother of God. From you has arisen the Son of Justice, Christ our God, enlightening those who...
I mean, technically speaking, Messianic and Christian mean the same thing, and I'm Jewish, so technically, I guess you could call me a Messianic Jew, but as an identifier, not a Messianic Jew.
I got to tell you, I know your sworn enemy, Rabbi Tovia Singer. I saw him.
I don't think he's my sworn enemy.
I'm kidding. He thinks you're his sworn enemy, but I saw him saying that same argument, like Jesus is so angry, and I just thought that was like this cheapest argument. First of all, I mean it's like the one moment of anger, but I mean righteous anger at the corrupted religious leadership and political leadership, and it's like it's the most manipulative thing to do, to be like, look at you, you're angry, so you must be wrong. And he was in conversation with an atheist, of course, and they were just bonding over what a joke Jesus is. I just thought that was...
Tuvia Singer's favorite groups of
disturbing.
people are atheists and Muslims.
Yeah.
I'm going to find
Disturbing.
something here. Where is it? You know when you adjust a note and then it edits it back to the wrong place?
Oh, man.
There we go. Okay, because you said Tuvia Singer's my enemy, I'm going to do this now, if you don't mind. Okay. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Lord Jesus Christ, who commanded us to love our enemies and those who insult and injure us, and to pray for them and forgive them, who you yourself prayed for your enemies who crucified you. Grant us, we pray, the spirit of Christian meekness, that we may heartily forgive every insult and injury and be reconciled in our hearts with our enemies. Grant us to overcome the malevolence and offenses of the people with Christian gentleness and true neighborly love. We further beseech you, O Lord, grant our enemies peace and forgiveness of their sins, and do not allow them to leave this life without true faith and sincere conversion. Help us to repay evil with goodness and to remain safe from all temptations of the devil and from the perils that threaten us in the form of visible and invisible enemies, that we may give glory to you and your eternal Father and to your holy and all life-giving Spirit, now and always and forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
Yeah,
Love your enemy. That's bold. That's bold.
I don't consider Tuvia Singer an enemy. I think that, if I'm being honest here, we're going to bring somebody else up in just 1 second. I think that Tuvia Singer intentionally twists and distorts things. I think he knowingly does that. It's my opinion. But at the end of the day, whatever reason, for that he has, that's his issue to deal with, him and God. I will counter things that he says that are incorrect or deceitful. But that's not the first time I've prayed for him, and it's not going to be the last. So, oh, Ellie just left. Where'd you go, Ellie? I was about to pull you up, literally. Ellie, if you're still watching, I'll give you 1 more minute to come back in. Nope. Okay, so we're going to go to, it says Frank, but it's 2 A's and a KH at the end. Okay. Frank, you're in the stream. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
How's it going?
Hey, Frank.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
It's
How
the
are you?
universal response now. When somebody says, how are you? You just say, how are you back? What's
It's
your
okay.
what's your background?
Huh?
What is your background?
My background, it's a white wall.
No, I don't mean what's behind you. I mean your
Oh,
upbringing
it's
and
okay, it's
belief
okay.
system.
Oh, I can just told you my English is very bad because I'm French from Canada and I'm just not English.
There's no Canada like French Canada. It's the best Canada in the land. Anyways.
We understand you.
I
Go
don't.
ahead.
It's okay. I don't know what is the basic discussion what you have, but it's is it that possible to I just put my seed inside the conversation?
Like just your ideas, like your thoughts on the matter? By
Yes,
Hopivians?
just yes.
Okay. Where are you? Are you Jewish?
I'm just man from God. I just like I'm. I think that's a very just good response inside this world.
Okay. So the topic of conversation is for people who have a traditional Jewish background, rabbinic Judaism, whether observant or not
Okay,
observant, but who believe in that system, to come and convince
okay,
me or Israel in any capacity that rabbinic Judaism is valid. If you have a different conversation you'd like to have, I do these streams from time to time. I'm happy to bring you up to have a different conversation then.
yes. I don't have understand what about all of what you have told. This is why I told you I just can put my seed and you can just kick me out or just speak about that.
Yeah, maybe next time.
Okay, next time.
All right. What are your thoughts so far, Israel, while we're waiting for somebody else to come up?
I mean, my thoughts are that I think the seed thing was very funny.
No seed, please.
No spilling seed on the live stream. Uh, yeah, it's predictable for sure. These conversations are repetitive to a degree. I liked Ezekiel, I thought his spirit was very good. I think his, he was just being honest. And I understand why people find the community to be useful. It provides you with stability. It provides you with community. There's a convenience to it that can't be denied. And I understand the path of the lonely man of faith is problematic for sure for lots of people. But what choice do you have? When you have to be intellectually honest, when you have to acknowledge that there is corruption in the world, again, I'll use Noah as the example. Not to make up Noahide laws, but to actually tell you what Noah really did, which was walk with God in a world full of evil and sin. And that's all we can do. I really believe that. And I find it remarkable that we can have this conversation, even though we have these different beliefs from a Christian and Torah perspective. It's almost like the rabbinic thing is just it's so out there that it's so unserious, and not to disparage people, as you pointed out. It's not right to just put people down, but we're talking about just basic reading comprehension. Like, what does the book say? What does it not say? And that's really what I think it comes down to. But I mean, what was your experience with unlearning all of this rabbinic propaganda?
So, I mean, we've talked about this a little bit. God bless you, C Mole, as well. Good to see you as always. Sorry, addressing the chat here. Yeah, so I mean, we've had some conversations about this, joking around on Defending a Lion's live stream that you guys did on your channels. There's things that are habit, and then there's things that are mindset, and there's difficult things to get over. Like, from deciding, to take that leap of faith forward, to when I first actually stepped into church, saying Jesus or Christ gave me like an EBGB's feeling. You know what I mean? Which was cured my first week going to church. If you've ever been to a divine liturgy, I don't know what it's like at the Latin Mass or Novus Ordo or stuff like that. But if you've ever been to a divine liturgy, it's gonna cure you of that very, very quickly, as well as cure you of other things. I'm not even joking. But there's a lot of filters and layers that I had to get past. Now, I worked through a lot of that before actually becoming a Christian. A lot of it's still working on as far as mindset and things like that. There are things that I hear on Christian theology and I go, wait a second, that sounds a little bit like something that I know from Rabbinic Judaism that I know to be false. But then I get clarification on what the Christian stance actually is, not a straw man or an unexplained version of it. And it makes more sense in the context. I still have like habits, let's say. So like I said, I'll be out the door on my way to church Sunday morning, and I'll have think back, and I did it again today. Right shoe first, left shoe after, tie the left shoe, tie the right shoe. It's just deeply ingrained. It's like I observed rabbinic law as faithfully as I could for most of my life. And it's incredibly difficult to shake some of those things, right? Like walking out and being like, where's my kippah? Oh, right, I don't wear a kippah. It's difficult, like in terms of habits and things that you're used to. The other aspect of it that's come up a lot is, especially with churches like apostolic churches, like being Catholic, especially in the Eastern tradition, where there's a lot of customs and things like that. I had a conversation with some clergy at my church, with the priest, with a subdeacon that I study with, and been very encouraged not to legalize things in the way that Rabbinic Judaism does. If there's a tradition that's kept and there's a way that you're supposed to do things, it's not the same as Jews considering something to be a mandatory law from Rabbinic tradition. Now, there are things that are meant to be mandatory, but it's not the same mindset. It's a completely different mindset. Everything is about the inside, as opposed to, have you fulfilled the action or not? Did you check it off the list of things that you did? It's not like that. A lot of people think that the Catholic Church is like that, but it's actually not. There's a lot of Catholics that think the Catholic Church is like that, and it's actually not. It's about internal, it's about the heart, it's about your relationship with God. So the transition of going from legalistic check boxes from Judaism. Now I know people are going to say, well, you weren't taught that you're supposed to have kavana. Yes, I was. I understand the concept of kavana. I understand. I used to go to Shirei Chassidut at 5 a.m. I understand kavana. I understand preparing yourself and having a relationship with God. In fact, I'd say that the Chabad Hasidic tradition, when applied faithfully, is a very nice tradition as far as trying to develop a relationship and connection with God. I don't knock Chabad for that at all. In fact, I'd say that they probably stole a few things from Eastern Christianity in Ukraine, but whatever. So essentially, yeah, there are things that are difficult to get through because there are filters. There's an upbringing that's involved. And then on the flip side, it's really, for me, was just difficult not to go too far the other way of like, not wanting to have any connection to anything Jewish or being Jewish or with the Jewish community, anything, because, I want to avoid that. It's like, no, there's a healthy dose of maintaining your culture, your background, your heritage that every other group that comes to Christianity has full right to do. For some reason, Jews feel like they have to abandon everything about being a Jew when they come to Christianity, which is not true. We do have another caller. Ellie is back. Let's let him come in. Ellie, you dropped out before, but now you're back. Can you hear us?
Yeah. You guys kicked me out before, or you did.
It wasn't
Were you
intentional.
Yitzchak before?
I was the guest before Ezekiel, and you kicked me out. So I just was trying to come back.
So you came in on a different name, so you could sneak your way back in.
I have more than one name,
But
like
now
Israel.
it's 6 a.m. in Israel. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
You're
listening.
not going to sleep tonight? Don't tell me you work in Avtacha.
It's almost Nate's Hachama.
Anyways,
You guys want to talk?
Not particularly. You didn't answer any of my questions the first time. I'm not convinced you're going to answer them now.
Oh, I'd love to try.
Okay.
I thought I was trying to answer your questions before.
So let's go back to one of them. If the law is don't follow the majority to evil, right? And then you interpret that as follow the majority for good. If the majority is dictating what's good and evil, how can you faithfully apply that command?
Well, I tried to answer before. I don't think it's
because I want to caveat that with Ramban being very explicit that if you know a man is innocent, but the Beit Din tells you he's guilty, even if you are a witness and you know it's not true, you are still to put him to death at the command of the Beit Din.
Right. So,
he's about to throw Ramban under the bus. Watch.
No. I would just say that that is such an exceptional case, and there are I don't know all the laws and details of that, but basically it's so exceptional. It's not the question you're asking is how do you decide what's good, and we agree that the Torah tells us what's good or not good, right? But Christianity rejects the Torah, so I don't understand
Christianity doesn't
how
reject
you
the Torah.
understand what's good. I don't understand how you understand what's good.
Christianity. Can I ask what group of Christianity you came from? What background?
It was a Protestant, not Catholic.
Like non-denominational.
More like that, yeah.
Okay. And I'm sure you're familiar with the Bible, but have you read any of the church fathers' explanations on these things at all?
Yeah, some. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Would you say that you were well versed in the Christian faith?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're sitting there telling me that Christianity rejects the Torah.
They put it as the beginning of their Bible. I mean, they don't follow every one of the ritual laws, but they definitely follow the moral laws. Where do you think they got
to a stricter standard than Jews do?
They don't keep
Ten
the
Commandments
Sabbath,
from
the
sexual morality. Yeah, but again, I find this so rich that you're calling to debate Torah matters and you keep referencing Christianity. What are you accountable to? Are you accountable to Christianity or are you accountable to the Torah?
You guys brought up Christianity from the beginning. So
no, I brought up an anecdote about my personal life that I find more in common with Christians than Jews. That doesn't mean that I'm a Christian. It doesn't mean that that you can argue from Christianity, because I'm not a Christian for many of the reasons that you brought up initially. Right. I don't think that Christianity is entirely compatible with the Torah. I also don't think that Christianity is even compatible with the New Testament. That's my own personal opinion. That's not what this conversation is about. This conversation is about, you said the Torah dictates what's right and wrong. yet you include the oral Torah as part of the written Torah, which gives the Torah absolutely no definition because the Torah now includes every random opinion of rabbis for 3,000 years. So when I'm telling you what the Torah is, which is not my interpretation, it's what the Torah says about itself, follow everything that's written in this book, a book that was written to its completion by Moses himself, dictated by the word of God. That is what you need to follow. Do not add or subtract to those commandments. Actually, I read in one of the rabbinic Musar books, one of like their books about self-improvement. It's called Orchot Tzadikim, the way of the righteous. They say that do not add or subtract is referring to the written and oral Torah, which is just top tier nonsense. But yeah, that's kind of the point, which is that the oral Torah to you is the Torah, which makes no sense because the oral Torah is a conglomerate of subjective opinions of rabbis.
Anyways,
Well,
I will address
what I
the
tried
point
to say
though when you
before-
say that Christians don't accept the Torah. God had a covenant with Abraham, and it included blessings for his children and those who come after him. But he didn't mention a law like he would give at Sinai, and that's new at Sinai. It's a new covenant with the Jewish people that he did not give to Abraham. I know rabbis disagree. Even
But it doesn't nullify the first covenant.
It doesn't nullify the first covenant, but eventually afterwards, the stance of Christianity is that the new covenant in Jeremiah, God saying that the Sabbaths, the way that they're being done, are an abomination to him. And when Jesus comes as God, because you'd have to presuppose he's not God to make it false, it's a circular attack, circular reasoned attack. If Jesus is God and he's saying these things about how the Sabbath is fulfilled, how the law is fulfilled, by the way, strengthening aspects of the moral law to a degree that Judaism has no doesn't understand and doesn't get and doesn't follow, making it an internal thing more so that you do have to have your heart in the right place, not just fulfilling actions. That's the stance of Christianity, not that the covenant is broken, not that the Torah is irrelevant. That's not the stance of Christianity.
But he says in Matthew 5, he says that the heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. The not one jot or tittle will pass away from the law until all is fulfilled. He says, whoever teaches to break the least of these commandments will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. So
right, but the law is fulfilled. The law is fulfilled in Christ as
Sabbath,
God,
which is one of the 10 commandments. The seventh day is
you're missing the point though.
In Christianity, so
is the point according to Christianity is that Jesus is God, who is forming his covenant through his apostles to be the ongoing covenant and binding covenant on Israel. Right?
Yeah, but he never claims to be God, and he rejects that in many places.
Yes, he does. Again, obviously debunked 100 times over by scholars greater than myself. I suggest you take it up with them and have that conversation with them.
We can go into some passages if you want. The Father is greater than I. He says the Father is greater than
I would suggest having that conversation with somebody who is more well-versed in it.
Why do you call me good? No one is good but God.
Yeah, I've heard the arguments. I don't find them compelling. I'm not necessarily great at articulating the standpoint on those, so I'm not going to go into that. But it's been debunked, and it's a foolish argument to make. It's been debunked 100 times over.
No, that's not true. That's absolutely not true.
Yitzchak Eli, let's just say I agree with you, which I happen to agree with you in this instance. I agree with you that the Sabbath is an eternal decree that we have to follow. How does that disprove what I'm saying?
Well, you said it was ironic what I was saying, but I think it's ironic that you guys completely disagree with each other on keeping the Torah, as far as from a Christian versus
no kidding
Karaite. So it's ironic that you guys disavow the authority of the rabbis when you guys completely don't agree on the
Hold on a second. I get why it would be very frustrating that two traditions that base themselves in the Bible disagree with you, and why it's incredibly difficult to maintain that your tradition is true when two different traditions with two different reasons reject it completely.
It's not because we are also based on...
It's a lot to work with.
Judaism.
That's why I wrote on the thumbnail, ultimate challenge for Judaism, because it is.
Yeah. Well, I'm challenging your challenge because
that's why it's the ultimate challenge.
Because
even if I was wrong, or even if Israel's wrong, it doesn't make Judaism, as we know it from the rabbis, correct. That's why it's the ultimate challenge.
But I'm saying that
congratulations, you figured it out.
Judaism is more correct. It's based on the Bible, and I believe it follows the Bible more more carefully, more convincingly, and it
Hmm.
has. And Jews have kept the Bible consistently for generations without end, and there's an unbroken chain of Masorah and of rabbis smicha. I mean, obviously smicha is not exactly
Who told you that, by
kept.
the way?
Well, the Rambam lays it
The
out in the
rabbis,
Mishnah Torah. So
the Rambam says that
no,
generations
but the
preceded him till
history bears it out. History bears it
history
out
bears what
because
out?
this
The
rabbi
Rambam
quotes this
says
rabbi, and that rabbi quotes
that
this rabbi, and it goes
oh,
all the way to back
there
to
just happens
back
to
to
be a
the.
1500-year gap between Moses and the rabbis, but we
Anyways,
won't
No,
get
Ellie,
into
we're
that.
there's
gonna.
not a gap.
There's not
There's
a
not a
gap.
Where
gap
where
Okay.
in
because
the
that's why I
entire
said
Tanakh, where in the entire Tanakh does it mention the oral Torah?
that's why I asked you, why do you accept the prophets? How do you accept the prophets if you don't accept you say you don't accept
Because the
anything other than
prophets don't
Torah?
change the law. Yeah, because the prophets don't change the law.
Yeah, and the rabbis don't change the law either. They keep the
Of
law.
course
Anyways,
they do.
Ellie, we
Of
have
course they do.
people waiting, and this is your second time coming on,
They
and
they keep the law better, and they know better than you. I think. I'm
Where does the
absolutely
law
convinced.
say that if you're already circumcised, you have to get poked by the rebbe in your pee-pee? Where does it say that?
They are the experts,
Where does the
and
law say? Where does the
the
law say that you
covenant
have to suck a baby off at his
the
circumcision?
the
Where does the
covenant
law say
has
that
to
you
be
have to put on
ratified
your
with
right
blood.
shoe first, and then your left shoe, and then you tie your left shoe and put on your
anyways,
right shoe?
Ellie, we'll see you
But
next time.
those things are like you're focusing on the.
I'm focusing on the bullshit.
Anyways,
Oh, I'm sorry
yeah,
that there's so much
he's
bullshit to
gone.
focus on.
I do want to say I'm going to read a couple super chats first, and then we have somebody waiting. May the Lord God and Creator of heaven and earth bless us with ever increasing wisdom and humility, that we might come to the truth and know Him who is the source of all truth.
Amen.
Amen. And I think most observant Jews would be impressed by George MacDonald's idea of justice. In his sermon Justice, C.S. Lewis spoke very highly of him, as did G.K. Chesterton. It's available online for free. Cool. Thank you. The laws of God are good, therefore we should follow them, but we are not made for the law, we are made for love. George MacDonald. Awesome. I got to check that out. And we got here, it needs a clean heart to have pure hands, all the power of live soul to keep the law, a power of life, not of struggle, the strength of love, not the effort of duty. George MacDonald, Unspoken Sermons. Sounds like he had a lot of smart things to say. Let's check it. Gonna check that out at some point. Jakey says, the best thing about the Catholic Church is all are welcome, and you can have your culture while praising the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit with all rights. Absolutely. Amen. And
For the record, I think the Torah affords culture as well, as long as it doesn't contradict the doctrine of the Torah. So that's why I don't like the uniformity of Orthodoxy, because they claim, well, how would we all know what shirt to wear today? It's like, how about it doesn't matter what color mezuzah box you have or tefillin box you have. Just follow the laws of God and come as you are.
And then if Jews become Christians, are they free to observe the Torah if they wish? It seems that doing so is a good witness to fellow Jews. So there's a few nuances here. Number one, I think it's important not to be deceptive to people. So don't practice rabbinic customs pretending like you're an Orthodox Jew while preaching the gospel, because then Jews will be turned away when they find out you're lying.
Do you think a Christian
it's
would be worse off for following Shabbat, for example?
And then as far as the law, let's put it like this. There's differing opinions even within like the Catholic and Orthodox traditions. It's very clear that if you should not be following the law for reasons that you think it is efficacious for salvation or mandatory and obligatory as binding, except those parts that are, things that were, especially under the moral law, strengthened by our Lord and St. Paul and so on, as far as writings about specific issues. But I think it's very important. There's nuance there. I don't think that, for example, Messianic Jews that keep Jewish customs and traditions, I don't think they are violating anything as far as their faith in Christ. I personally don't believe you should continue doing things for certain, again, cultural versus thinking that you have to do these things for salvation, I think is a big difference. But I was even told that as far as circumcision, for example, Christians are generally told if it's for health and cultural reasons and not done as a reason for salvation or covenantal reasons, is allowed to be done. It's not like you can't do that.
I have to just tell you, my reaction every time I see Jews like kind of like say, oh, you don't need the Torah. It's just like I have the Rebbe in me comes out and says, the Heilige Torah, you have to follow the Torah. That's just kind of my response. But I think that the Torah is so important. I just want to point that out, and I do think you would only be blessed from following the laws. And someone who's not born Jewish is obviously going to come at it from a different perspective than someone who's born into it. But I don't see how you can lose out from following the Ten Commandments.
And then we got a question for you. Does the Karaite, his name's Israel, guys, does the Karaite Jew believe in multi-personal God like historic Jews did before the Second Temple? I think there's some nuance to that also. I don't think every Jewish group believes in that.
Multi-personal. Do you want to explain that to me?
Father and Son and Holy Spirit, hypostasis, ousias.
Well, I believe that God clearly manifests in many different ways in the Torah, whether as a man or as a burning bush or as a cloud. I don't think it's the entirety of God, because God also tells Moses, "You couldn't see my face and live." I don't observe the Trinity though, because I think it's I don't see where you get three from. I see either infinity or one, and God tells us one. So I use that.
I understand
number.
Sam Shamoon might be around in the near future on this live if you want to talk to him about it.
Damn, he's lurking.
Yeah, if you wanna debate Sam on that, be my guest.
All right, bring him on.
Just you're both hot tempered, so I'm gonna have to keep you guys in check. Please speak on when Judaism became monotheistic. Judaism was always monotheistic. The question is, what do you mean by monotheism? Right? I think that there's this really cringy thing. I can disprove Christianity with one verse, the Shema. Adonai Echad. It's one, not three. It's like, yeah, Christianity also affirms one God, but the word Echad is also used for Adam and Eve becoming one flesh. It's a ridiculous argument. It does not rule out a trinity to say Echad.
It's a complex unity. It's a complex unity for sure. Although I think that the Torah doesn't provide us with the nature of that complexity so much as it just tells us God is one, and that's the number you should go with.
Yep.
Besides to say like 3, 4.
There is no other, he says.
Of course.
And then one last one. What is the role of Gentiles in the Old Testament? Props for the Jews? What?
Oy.
I don't even know what that means.
I think Isaiah 56 says it very well. Those Gentiles who cling to the covenant of the Lord and keep the Sabbath will be brought to rejoice in the house of prayer for all nations. The end of Deuteronomy as well, the Song of Moses concludes with, "Sing, O nations, with my people." So the idea of universality and unity of humanity, I think, is fundamental to the Torah itself.
Yeah, God is the God of all people and will bring all of them to him.
Amen.
Rabbi Yonason Perry in the house. He's a very respectful rabbi. He disagrees wholeheartedly. He's more.
I love how I just said I love how I just said I don't follow the Trinity, and then he said I'm fine with it. I said I do not think.
I think he means that you're fine with other people believing in it.
No, I'm fine with people believing in one God. I don't think the Trinity is reasonable because it gives a number other than one. God, clearly, the usage of the word Elohim, there's a plurality there, although it's a plurality that is unified. God is the God of gods and the Lord of lords, and he manifests in physical matter. That's abundantly clear to anyone who reads the Old Testament. So really what we're talking about is, what number should you use? Should you use 1 or 3? And I think 1 is the going number. Absolutely. Stick to 1.
I will say Rabbi Yonason Perry here has been very respectful with me in dialogues, backs and forths. He disagrees wholeheartedly. He's an Orthodox rabbi, and I like the guy from what I've seen so far. So shout out to him for being awesome, dude.
Great.
This is funny. Trinity bad, 3 bad, 10 Sphirot good. I like Final Fantasy.
No. No 10 Sphirot. I don't ascribe to any of this.
And we got somebody waiting here. Rebecca, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. What is your background?
Excellent. So it's so funny that the conversation has gone this way. So I have a question kind of along these lines. I am not sure that I buy the Trinity thing. I just want, but I don't understand why Bereshit says let us make man in our own image.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
it's so
abundantly clear that God. I mean, yeah, you see that multiple times as well in the end when the end of chapter 3, I believe, when Adam and Eve eat from the apple, God says, "Behold, man has become one of us." So yes, there is a plurality in the divine realm. God is the God of legions. We see an account in Joshua where Joshua encounters the commander of God's army. So I think we'd be very reductionist as human beings to say that nothing exists in reality outside of planet Earth. So yeah, clearly God is referencing to a plurality within divinity, and we can say even we're created in the image of the gods. But an interesting way to look at the term other gods in the Torah, Elohim Acherim, can also mean the gods that come after. Right? Acher means other and also after. So if you look at it this way, that there are powers in existence, but they come after God himself. And God himself must come first. Yehovah is one. He's the God of gods, the Lord of lords. That's Deuteronomy 10:17 for you.
Yeah, Israel, I want to say you should definitely meet up with Utis and talk about that. he'll go on for hours with you there on that concept specifically. He has a channel you
So
can check out.
that was like a really good. That was a lot, and I'm trying to like distill it. I'll probably have to listen to this again. But it is a question that I ask myself a lot, you know, and the whole idea of echad. I do understand that as not singular but a plural. And I've also read the Brit Chadashah, and I think that um, I'd be hard pressed to find someone um, who fits a better description for what I've read of the prophets than him for Mashiach.
So
I
can I ask, are you coming from a background of traditional Judaism, rabbinic Judaism, Orthodox, Reform, Conservative, or anything like that?
so my mother.
Trying to assert that it is the truth, because that's the topic for conversation now.
Trying to assert that what's the truth? The
Rabbinic
that.
Judaism.
Oh, you know what? I've My understanding is that, like, personally, I don't think that rabbinic Judaism is the truth.
Okay.
I currently go to.
So the topic of conversation is specifically, you can come when I do a stream on Christianity or different Christian doctrines or topics, but this would be specifically to address from a Jewish standpoint why you think that that's accurate and why Karaites and Christians would be wrong, for example. But I
I
appreciate you
can
coming
speak
on.
to this. I can speak to this. I do think that I've listened to Israel before, and I definitely buy the idea that there's too much in rabbinic Judaism that
Yeah,
contradicts itself
and
to
yeah,
be
happy to have you on
seriously.
another time to discuss that. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
How's it going in the chat?
I see someone said, so did the angels create man as well? I think you can look at it this way: is if a king is consulting with his council, right? It's not that no one has power to operate outside of Yahweh, who is the Father, who is the God of gods and the Lord of lords. Someone mentioned even Jesus says he's subservient to the Father. So what we're looking at is one God who's above all, yet there is a divine realm, and that's made clear in the Torah. Not that we know much about it. In fact, we barely know anything about it.
I saw something interesting here. Somebody said, Cheder Chabad, you know me. You know me from the past. You're trying to mess with me.
Oh man. So Ash, you were primed for messianism, huh? Yechi Adonenu,
Yeah.
Melech HaMashiach.
So
You're
funny
just like,
story.
come on, if it's between Menachem Mendel Schneerson and Jesus Christ, I mean, obviously, Jesus Christ.
So don't forget to leave a pidyon nefesh in the grave. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, and maybe there's some. Actually, I think I'd be more inclined to dismiss Chabad first because it's kind of what I came out of and left. But at the end of the day, I actually do see quite a few parallels that Chabad people might not be aware of between Eastern Christian mysticism and Chabad mysticism. And considering that the youngest son of the Alter Rebbe converted to Catholicism, I think is pretty telling. But yeah, I mean, so funny story. we're gonna let one guy in, and we're not gonna put him in yet. But um, one of my sisters actually left, went to, like started in, I can't remember if it was the second year of high school, but 1 year of high school she went to this like new Chabad school, and left within the first few days because the teacher, it wasn't explicit in this way, but was like, and the Rebbe, God, to almost to that degree, and she's like, yeah, I'm out. Sorry. And she is a devout yeshivish Jew today.
I like
but
that.
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
I grew up in a culture of yeshivish culture where they wouldn't eat Chabad meat because they said the Shor Habor Chabad brand of kosher meat, they said was made by idolaters, so we cannot have it.
That's wacky. That's really wacky.
Yeah.
At least it's intellectually honest as far as like addressing Chabad being similar to Christianity, and that's in some
Right.
senses. But yeah, I mean, Lubavitch Shchita basically just, for the most part, is like the guy learned Hasidus for a lot of hours in the morning before he went to go kill chickens.
Personally, I don't really care who kills my. I don't care if it's a goy or a Jew or whatever.
Well, on that
It's
topic,
just-
somebody's asking, would you eat a cat?
well, that's a question for
No.
you because my answer. I only eat kosher animals.
Not for kosher reasons. I just wouldn't eat a cat.
Okay.
Like, why? I'm not need like a new kind of flu going around. Somebody, he meant like props used in a play is what he meant when he said
Yeah.
Gentiles in the Old Testament.
Well, Orthodox, I mean, I don't want to speak for all Orthodox Jews, but it's definitely mainstream Orthodox philosophy, which I read from the chief rabbi of Israel on Thursday night, Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, and this is mirrored in many Jewish writings that the non-Jews are there to be slaves for the Jews. So yeah, that's some very despicable rabbinic propaganda, but from the Old Testament perspective, absolutely not. I mean, again, there is a unity in humanity that's described. Israel is meant to be ministers and priests unto the nations, a light unto the nations, so that they can bring God's light to the world and be an example for the world of what divine holy living is supposed to look like. But of course, that involves the rest of the world. One of my favorite points to make is that when God wanted to destroy Israel in the desert, Moses appealed to God, saying, "Do not destroy them, because what are the other nations going to say?" Which makes it very clear that God was performing what he did with Israel to be assigned to the rest of the world, that he is the God of all, and that we should all unite in him.
Check this out, by the way. I knew it was good to have Jonas and Perry in the chat. Everyone I knew this also, and I totally forgot. Everyone uses the psak on the knife, so everyone technically eats Chabad Shechita. I also
I'm
think
talking
that,
about the kavanas of
Right.
of Rebbe worship.
well, yeah,
The
most
the,
Chabad
the
people are not
Yeshivish
Rebbe
people
worshiping,
say,
though.
well, the Yeshivish people say we can only worship our Rebbes, not your Rebbes.
Exactly. As long as he has the right gold watch and pulls enough malachim into his bekesha during the tish. Like, for people in the chat who don't come from a Jewish background, like, some of this stuff is gibberish and like is wacky to you. Like, if I talk about a Rebbe showing off his gold watch and pulling malachim, like angels, into his bekesha, like into his jacket, like you don't understand. But if you've ever been to a tish, and by the way, if you like in various areas of like Measharim and what is it? Not Bells. It's Bells, right? The giant shul in what's that neighborhood?
Yeah, bells.
They have like the $1 million chandeliers that people.
Yes.
They're kind of
It's
like
bells.
Mormons. Like, you have to do a certain amount of charity and like gathering and stuff like that before you're allowed to like be fully in the community. It's like they have like all kinds of customs about that, but essentially, yeah, it's very rich when I see even people in the chat bashing Chabad. Like, I don't follow Chabad because I'm a Christian, but Chabad does all of your heavy lifting for you. It's hard to say what the Jewish world would look like today without Chabad. You got two people. Utis, you're going to wait for a little bit just because I have somebody else waiting as well. But Chabad does a lot of the heavy lifting for the Jewish world today. Promoting certain moral and ethical standards, outreach to Jews to bring them back to Judaism. As you can see, like doctrines on which knife can be used for shechita, but in general, just promoting interfaith dialogue, reducing anti-Semitism. Like, Chabad does all of the heavy lifting for most of the
Right.
Jewish world today. It's hard to say even what Israel would look like today. The country of Israel, not you. If it wasn't for Chabad, I mean, the settlements
I
in
agree.
Hebron that the Alter
Yeah.
Rebbe set up back in the early 1800s,
I
the
think
work
it's
done.
undeniable the actions of how much Chabad has done, of course. What I would say, though, is as a Karaite Jew or someone who has a vested interest in seeing Jews move away from rabbinic literature, I find it to be destructive as well because they're just preaching
Well, this
rabbinic
person says
Judaism.
Chabad isn't even big in Medina Yisrael, Medinat Yisrael, nor is it taken seriously in Medina Yisrael. Actually, Chabad was one of the pioneer movements before the modern Zionist movement, setting up settlements of Orthodox Jews in Israel. Israel may not have been a country with any religious standard at all if it wasn't for the early Chabad movement in Israel, setting up religious institutions in Israel. So to say that they don't play a serious role in the Jewish people in Israel, and again, as a Christian, whatever, um, you can't deny the effect that Chabad has had on promoting and boosting the Jewish world in a way that nobody else has done before, and no organization in Judaism has done aside from Chabad. And by the way, yeah, as far as maybe supporting defense, but also huge amounts of Chabad people going and serving in the IDF, things like that, it's pretty common as well. So we got one more super chat, and then we're going to bring somebody up. Can Israel comment on the Most High when he divided humankind, he fixed the boundaries of peoples according to the number of the sons of God? You should have. Where were you when I had? Oh, you were here when I had Uti-san. I remember you had some.
Doesn't it say, I mean, in the Jewish Bible, it says the children of Israel. It says God created the boundaries of the nations according to the children of Israel. I believe he's quoting Deuteronomy 32, if I'm not mistaken. I'll read it for you right here. Deuteronomy 32 is the Song of Moses. And here it is. Deuteronomy 32:8. When the Most High gave the inheritances to the nations, when he separated the children of man, he set the boundaries of the peoples in accordance with the number of the children of Israel. That's how it's written in the Hebrew Bible. Now, again, if he's asking me more generally about what I think about the sons of God, the sons of God are characters in the Bible that refer to divine beings who originate from on high. At least that's clear from the book of Job. In the book of Genesis, when it talks about the sons of God, there is a debate whether that's referring to just sons of powerful people or actual gods from heaven. Either way, the sons of God refer to beings that come from the gods. I mean, the Torah does acknowledge that there is an existence in heaven that includes legions of angels, and potentially Satan is discussed in the book of Job as well as one of the sons of God.
Cool.
Did you see that, though, that in Deuteronomy 32 it says in accordance with the number of the children of Israel?
There's a really interesting thing. The Dead Sea Scrolls actually reads like the Septuagint. I think it's Deuteronomy 32.
32:8.
About the heavenly hosts and things like that, worshiping God
That's
alongside
later
Israel.
on.
But that's
Yeah,
not
that's
in the
later
Masoretic
on.
text. It's only found in, get this, the Septuagint that's distorted by the church, and also earlier texts that existed before the church.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Yonasan Perry, Asher, I look forward to bringing with you on all this over cigars in Yirtzeh Hashem, Israel, Yisrael. You're invited too. Absolutely, I would love to have a cigar with you.
Yasher
He's a cool
koyach.
guy. Let's pull in Yitzchak. If it's a different Yitzchak, if it's the same Yitzchak, he's going to get kicked out very quickly. And then we're going to have Uti-san maybe to have a chat with you about the Divine Council stuff, because that'll be fun while we are waiting for other people, if you don't mind.
No worries.
Yitzchak, can you hear us?
I'm the only Orthodox Jew you've had on here.
Well, you're back, huh?
I'm the only Orthodox Jew who's been on this stream.
Can
or
I
the
ask
bad.
you, do you think that you're
You're
making a
missing
Kiddush
mates.
Hashem or a Chilul Hashem right now?
Well, what do you think you're making a Kiddush Hashem by kicking me off twice when you said this is only for Orthodox Jews and I'm the only Orthodox Jew who's been on?
Well, I don't know who the other people are before I bring them up.
Well, I know the other ones were not Orthodox Jews, so you confirmed that. So.
Well,
I would love to talk,
Davin,
but
you have to go
talk. You
Davin
want
mates by the
what
by
time?
the
What time is
coastal.
it in Israel now? It's 6:08. What city in Israel are you in?
I don't like to give out, my personal information, but I'm in Israel. I'm
The
near
paparazzi
Jerusalem.
are coming for you.
He's not.
Yeah, but I'd love to talk with you guys, but you guys
could
don't
he
want
be
to talk.
a-
You just kick me out every.
Well, no, we are talking to you, and then you say the same thing over and over again, and I say, no, that's not how Christianity sees it. And you insist you were a Christian at some point, and yet you don't know the basics of how Christians see anything, apparently.
I have another question for you, a different question, if you'd like to discuss, actually.
If it's on topic, sure, I'll give you one more chance here. I'm very charitable.
Okay, my third time's the charm, hopefully. Okay, so Zechariah, the prophet Zechariah, and this is for Israel mainly. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you.
The prophet Zechariah in chapter 8, he says, "Thus says Lord of hosts." I'm just reading English translation. The fast of the fifth month. Sorry, I'm just using this as an example. The fast of the fifth month, the fast of the fourth month, fast of the seventh month, and the fast of the 10th month shall become occasions for joy and gladness, happy festivals. So the fasts are not mentioned in the Torah. So why do we accept what Zechariah says that God said, the fast of the fifth? I'm just using this as one of many examples of things that the prophets say that are not in the Torah. So why do you recognize what Zechariah says? Like, what authority does Zechariah, the prophet, have? You say only the Torah has authority. No men have authority. So how do you recognize the authority of the prophets to speak for God?
Israel, can I
say
answer
God
this
said
quickly?
this about
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think Israel
which
or
Jews
I.
observe, by the way. Jews observe the fast of the fourth. We observe the fast of the fifth. We observe the fast of the 10th. God acknowledges these fasts. So why should we take Zechariah as any authority about what God says about fasts that aren't even in the Torah?
Okay. I don't think Israel or I would deny that the Jewish people had every right throughout their traditions and history to institute traditions that didn't contradict the Torah and that were practiced by Jews. There's a lot of traditions in the Jewish people. I don't know who's denying that. How does that prove
that God
oral
actually
law?
acknowledges? That God acknowledges.
Yeah, also,
and
you should also quote Zechariah 7, where they ask him, should we fast on these made-up fast days that we created? And his response from God is, when you're fasting, are you fasting for me? And when you're doing these things, are you just doing it for yourselves? Because I don't need any of this crap. So that's actually
not
God's
Zechariah.
response. Yeah, it is Zechariah 7. Right? The word of Yahweh, Zechariah 7:5. The word, or 4. The word of Yahweh of legions was to me, saying, say to the people of the land and to the priests, when you fast on all these fast days, on the 5th month and the 7th month, are you fasting for me? And when you say, let us eat and let us drink, are you not doing it for yourselves? Right? So this is, actually, he's just saying you're doing it for yourselves. You're not even doing it for me. And that's God's attitude, similar to even the Torah commandments in Isaiah 1. God is saying, you guys are not even doing this for me. You're doing it for yourselves. So I don't think that God really cares much about these fast days. They're definitely not obligations. And as Ash said, we don't disagree that there were traditions in the past. It doesn't mean that those traditions are law. So if you want to follow those traditions and observe your fast days, then no one's stopping you. But don't tell me that I'm obligated to do that.
Yeah, but
and you should be so happy that God is merciful enough to turn your bullshit fast days into happy days. But don't claim that those are the laws of God.
Okay, so you think that these are bullshit? Okay, that's
Yeah,
That's
yeah, I
helpful
do
to know.
think it's
Okay.
bullshit that the rabbis say, let's fast on the day that the Romans surrounded the wall, and let's fast on the day that the Romans broke down the wall, and let's fast on the day that the Romans. No, no, no. First of all, none of these things are commandments, which they frame as
But
commandments. In the Torah, there's
yeah,
only one day of affliction on the 10th day of
but
the
they don't.
seventh
They
month.
don't. What you say, they
Yeah.
don't. They don't contradict the Torah. I say that
Of
about
course they
all of
do.
Jewish tradition.
They
Doesn't
say that these are laws. This is the problem that you refuse to acknowledge as you continue to defend the rabbis when they make up laws. If the rabbis say, listen, we have a suggestion, everyone. These were very sad days in our history. Let's all fast to show God that we're willing to fast for these things. You're allowed to do that. The problem is that they say that it's an obligation, that it's a commandment, that you must do this. That's the problem. That's my problem, because I don't want to fast on
well,
those days, and I don't have to.
well, if God Himself acknowledges these fasts in some regard, I mean, I get your point about.
God
I don't.
acknowledges what goes on
Yeah.
earth. God knows what human beings do, right? When they were building the
Yeah.
Tower
But
of Babel, God,
even
when
more
they were
than that,
building the
you know the
Tower of
story with the
Babel, when
you
they
know
were
the
building
story
the
with the
Tower of
Rechabites
Babel, God
in
came to
Yirmiyahu,
the story of what?
the sons of Rechav, the Rechabites. I don't actually don't even know the Hebrew of it, but basically the story goes that the God honors that the Rechabites honored the tradition of their fathers to abstain from drinking wine. This is something that they're not commanded to do by the Torah, but God honors them for respecting their fathers and what their fathers passed down to them. There's many examples of this, but like you said, if the traditions don't contradict God's Torah, then there shouldn't be anything wrong with it.
The
And
contradiction
if
is
there's
not that
even
they
if there's
exist. The
even
contradiction is that they are enforced as law. I don't have a problem with you telling me that this is your tradition.
they're enforced
I have a
as
problem with
law
you
for
telling me that
Jews
I have. No, it's not the Jewish law. The Jewish law is the Torah law.
based on the authority that God gives the judges, which we talked about. And
No,
I
no,
know
God doesn't
we don't
give
agree with.
judges blanket authority to do whatever they want. Stop with this ridiculous
It's not a
orthodox
blanket authority.
argument.
It's not a
Yes, it
blanket
is.
authority.
They don't have
There's
authority
a
to make up
Masorah, there's a
laws.
Smicha, there's a tradition
Masorah,
passing
smicha,
down
you
from
throw
teacher to
bullshit
teacher.
rabbinic terms at me. Okay, stop
Ordination,
throwing. No, it's
unbroken
not even
chain,
unbroken
unbroken
chain.
chain.
There's an unbroken chain between me and Moses too. My father to his father to his father, all the way back to Moses. So now am I
Yeah,
speaking in the
but
seat of
but
Moses?
if they have an
What is this
understanding
nonsense?
of how to interpret the Torah,
They don't have
and
an
you go
understanding. They have
against
a claim.
the majority, right? Which going back to what we're saying, but
Going back to what we're saying, do
you're
not follow the
you're not
majority
doing
to pervert the
evil.
law.
You're just doing what you believe is the right interpretation of the Torah and what makes the most sense based on a tradition of understanding the language, understanding the context, having an unbroken chain of tradition that goes all the way back, and it's very lots of attestation to that tradition and lots of attestation to that chain. Then why is you, Israel Horowitz, in America, main language English, speaking English, why are you now the authority more than all the rabbis of how to interpret the Torah?
First of all, I
Or
speak fluent biblical.
why is the Latin church the
Can I
better
respond
authority
now?
to interpret the Torah? Yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
so first of all, I speak fluent biblical Hebrew. I myself have translated every single word in the Torah from Hebrew to English. Second of all, again, the rabbis in
That's
Babylon
pretty
probably
cool.
their first. Thank you. The rabbis in Babylon, their first language was probably Babylonian, so I wouldn't even or Aramaic. But it has nothing to do. You want to marginalize me? Oh, you don't know Hebrew? Oh, this and that. Listen, the
I'm not
reality is
marginalizing you. I'm just saying
okay.
what makes you more qualified than the unbroken chain of tradition that goes through the rabbis.
What do you mean?
Because the
You keep saying
unbroken train that
unbroken
you keep
chain.
referencing is made up out of the rear end of Yehuda Nasi in the late 2nd century or 3rd century.
There you go.
Yeah, but I
The
don't.
unbroken
We don't
chain
agree
of
with that.
You
nonsense.
believe
We don't
on
believe that.
pure faith. You believe on pure faith with no evidence that the claims of a 3rd, maybe 2nd century at best, rabbi, that his claims about an unbroken chain of authority are accurate.
What about the
Well, I
unbroken
could say
chain of
that about your
paganism?
belief in the Catholic
What
Church. I could say the same
what
thing
about
The
about your
Catholic
belief
Church
in
what
doesn't
about
claim an unbroken authority back to Sinai. I don't know what you're
Yeah, it
talking
does.
about.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
no, it claims an
Yeah, it
unbroken
does.
authority
Look
to
up your
Jesus.
doctrine.
It claims an
Look up
unbroken authority to
Catholic.
Jesus.
Also,
Yeah,
what
based
about the
on
unbroken
Matthew
what about
23.
the
But
un
again, you're playing
what
whataboutisms. You won't address because you just realized that you got caught in a nonsense that you're
No,
claiming an unbroken authority that doesn't
I'm
exist in
sorry.
history.
no.
What about the unbroken authority
Open
of
up the Mishnah
paganism?
Torah. Open up the Rambam. Look at
Oh,
history. Look at the historical
Oh,
record.
let's go 10th century, 11th century. Let's go 12th century to prove stuff that goes
dude,
back to Moses from the
They
2nd
they
century.
had
paganism
tefillin. They had
paganism
tefillin at
predated.
Masada. They
What are
had
you? Who's
And
disagreeing with
what?
tefillin? Who's
and
disagreeing with
so
tefillin?
Jews
Well,
developed a way
how
to,
do you
to
know
make tefillin.
tefillin is the right way to keep the Torah, to bind it as a sign on your
We don't.
hand and
We
Because
don't
the
know that that's
Torah
the right way
said
to do tefillin.
the Torah says to bind it as a sign
We
of your
just
hand
know-
ornament
how do you
between
know
your
all
legs.
we know
what God wanted?
all we know is that there's a bunch of traditions, some of which may go back very, very far, some of which definitely don't, some of which are authentic, and some of which contradict the Torah. Neither of us is saying that every tradition found in Rabbinic Judaism is an abomination or an affront to God or contradicting the Torah. We're not saying that
They
rabbis.
don't contradict the Torah. They keep the Torah.
Of course
And the
they
Jews
do.
are the only ones who kept the Torah. The
N-
Christians
neither
don't
of
keep
us.
the Torah.
Neither of
Just a
us
second.
are arguing with the black boxes with parchment in them as a contradiction to Torah. We're just saying it
I'll
doesn't
tell
go
you.
back to
I'll tell
Moses,
you.
and it's
But
not
I'll tell you.
mandatory.
I apply that
I'll
to
tell
Torah
you
Shabbat Peh,
what.
the whole
Okay,
the
I'll
whole
tell.
oral
I'll
Torah.
tell you. I'll tell
Yeah.
you.
By the
what
way,
is a
Simo, he's not a
contradiction.
Protestant anymore. He's an Orthodox Jew.
Listen. I'll tell you. It is a contradiction that the rabbis say that if your tefillin box is red, now you haven't fulfilled the commandment of the Torah. That is a contradiction because that's something the Torah never says. The Torah doesn't specify what color box you should have. The Torah just says have these words. So if you have these words of the
Yeah,
Torah,
but
no matter
uh,
what parchment or
I
what
think
style of writing, no matter what shape of the box, that's not what the Torah specifies. So again, the rabbis say that you need to fulfill the Torah in exactly the way that they say to do it. That again is an overreach of authority.
Okay.
You're saying that just because the Torah
Israel.
establishes judges, just because the Torah establishes judges as a concept, now whoever puts themselves in the seat of Moses has a right to say whatever the heck he wants. That's complete nonsense. All right, it's complete nonsense,
Israel.
and you know it. And you're telling me an unbroken
No.
chain. It's an unbroken chain of lies and deceit. The same way there's an unbroken chain of paganism. So maybe you should go follow Aleister Crowley and the occultists and go worship demons because there's an unbroken chain of that.
They
What-
have
what
an
kind of
unbroken
nonsense is
chain
But they
to
don't
the
keep the
to
Torah.
the. They have an
Israel.
unbroken chain to the angel spirit Iwas. Okay,
Israel.
Come
Aleister
on.
Crowley. I'm not even joking.
They have smicha. They have
They have
smicha.
smicha from Iwas inside an Egyptian pyramid going back. That spirit has lived there since before the
The
Jewish
problem,
people.
Israel.
Since
Why don't you
before
believe that
Israel,
tradition?
the problem.
Moses.
Can I say something? Can I respond? The problem, Israel, that you're going to face big time, and you haven't faced it because you like to talk theory, but I'm going to criticize this. So the problem that you have that Asher doesn't have because he accepts the rabbis of the Catholic Church. But the problem that you have is that you have no basis for unity, and that's what Catholicism means. It means unity. It means like how do we actually live together in community? How do we actually have similar practices, similar doctrines, similar things?
You
So
figured out
you're
that
gonna
me and
have a
Israel
huge
have different
problem.
belief systems. Cool. Oh wait, you already
I
we already
think-
got to
You're
that.
gonna
I think
have a
that-
huge problem
I think
because
that the word
you're
of
gonna
God-
wear these tefillin, and someone's gonna keep Shabbat, and
Oh,
the death
no.
penalty. There's a death penalty. You say there's a death penalty for violating Shabbat. You
Okay,
say
I
there's
wanna-
a death
I wanna
penalty
go through a
for
little bit-
dishonoring your father and
I
mother.
want to go through a little
So
bit of an
who
exercise here.
decides-
Okay.
Who
When
decides
we're
what
going
is
through who
dishonoring
decides.
your father and your mother?
So
Who
if we're talking about who decides,
what is violating Shabbat?
okay,
So
can
you're
I
not
ask you?
going to keep the Torah.
Okay, Yitzchak. If let's start one at a time. Is Maimonides an authority figure for determining Jewish law? Yes or no?
In as much as he transmits the Torah Shabbat Peh.
Okay. If he were to say wild things that contradict the Torah, can we rule him out as an authority?
If they contradict the Torah
Okay.
Shebiksav and the Torah Shabbat Peh. Yeah.
Where do you find in the Torah, in the written Torah, extrajudicial murder of heretics as a binding law that you're allowed to do?
Well, it says you're to remove the evil from your midst, right?
Under what
as far as
circumstances?
those who
Because
tell
so
you
if
to worship
so if
idolatry.
so if somebody in your community has arbitrarily on their own deemed that you're a heretic, are they allowed to kill you under Jewish law?
Yeah, but that's what I'm telling Israel. He thinks that
No, answer
that
the
he's
question,
gonna
please,
find
because you
some
keep doing this.
agreement about.
You keep filibustering, and
No.
then you don't want to answer any of the
Okay,
questions that are
so
on the
I'll answer.
topic. I get it. You don't think Christianity is
have-
true. I get it. Now, addressing rabbinic Judaism, do you think that the authority of the Rambam stands if he contradicts the Torah and says that if you find one of your brethren to be a heretic, that you should push him in a pit and hide him there till he dies if you can't kill him under the authorities of the time? Do you think that that disqualifies the Rambam?
No rabbi thinks that the Rambam holds if he contradicts the Torah.
The Rambam wrote it in his books. He wrote that you should, if you think somebody's a heretic, you should either get him killed by the local authorities, and if you can't get the local authorities to kill him, you should push him in a pit and wait for him to die.
He's not contradicting the Torah.
How is that not contradicting the Torah? Extrajudicial murder without witnesses is not contradicting the Torah?
I just told you. You shall remove the evil from midst. There's plenty of passages.
Where does it say?
It also says you need two or three witnesses.
Where does it say
you need 2 or 3 witnesses to condemn someone to death?
So you're saying that any Jew that thinks any other Jew is a heretic should go and kill them?
If a rabbi,
can you answer the question, please? Can you answer the question, please? Can you answer the question, please?
I did actually answer the question. I did answer.
You didn't answer the question. Do you think that if you believe that a Jew is a heretic, should you kill him extrajudiciously?
I don't believe that, and that's not.
Then you disagree with Maimonides.
You're misrepresenting.
I'm not misrepresenting Maimonides.
You're misrepresenting intentionally.
I'm not misrepresenting Maimonides. No, because
you are.
No, I'm not. This is stuff that's taught when you study Maimonides. I think it's in Hilchos Malachim. But
it's Hilchos Malachim. Yeah.
All right, so you're an Amoritz. You don't even know the Rambam.
Yeah,
Listen,
you don't know.
I'll tell you one thing. You asked what is the basis for unity. The basis for unity is
no.
The
You repeat. Hold on a second. I said Hilchos Malachim, and then you said Hilchos Malachim, and repeated what I said. You didn't quote Maimonides. Buddy, come on.
Yeah, because we just finished the Siyum Rambam. We just finished Hilchos Malachim, so that's why I said.
Cool, but you're pretending like you're a scholar of Maimonides here, and I must be wrong. Go read Maimonides. You just learned Hilchos Malachim. He says you should kill heretics. He also says that these groups of people have no portion in the world to come. Where does it say that in the Torah? He's making up his own doctrines that have become Jewish normative beliefs.
They shall be cut off from the people.
About which people?
There's sources.
About people that don't believe in the resurrection of the dead? Where does it say that in the Torah?
Absolutely nowhere.
Maimonides says if somebody doesn't believe in the resurrection of the dead, he should be cut off from the Jewish people, and he has no portion in the world to come.
They reject the Torah. They reject
Where does it say in the Torah that you have to accept this doctrine or you're cut off from the Jewish people?
Well, you say that in your Christian beliefs, so I think it's totally hypocritical of you.
Hold on a second.
He's asking you on Torah basis.
I'm asking you on a Torah basis
if they don't believe
if that's a valid claim for your rabbi to make. I'm asking you if on a Torah basis.
He's a Christian. He's asking you as someone who believes
on a Torah basis, where's your justification for the Rambam's opinion?
I
don't need to justify the Rambam. It's not.
You do, because you're defending rabbinic Judaism, and the Rambam established he established the majority of normative Jewish beliefs.
One man established the majority. That's great.
From the judges of Israel.
He was also. Hold on a second. The Rambam in his age changed normative Jewish beliefs and was deemed to have changed them by the majority of rabbis at the time, and was considered a heretic by the majority of rabbis of the time. Why do you follow any of the things that he established as normative beliefs?
For the exact reason I just gave you. I just told you.
Because later rabbis determined that he's not in fact a heretic, and those are earlier normative beliefs?
No.
With no evidence
because the Rambam, in the Mishnah Torah, Rabbi Nachman said he was said his philosophical works was Epicurus, but the Mishnah Torah is just relaying what the Mishnah, what the written Torah gave.
So his theology was heresy.
So his theology is make up new things, get deemed a heretic, be excommunicated, then later rabbis determine it's okay because they liked it, and then also edited, by the way. We don't even know the fullest extent of how much was edited by, I forget who it was. Is it the Vilna Gaon, or is it somebody else who edited a lot of Maimonides' works? But because he said, well, this can't be what Maimonides said, and so they just changed it. So what you have as Rambam isn't even the original text. But because 18th century rabbis thought that a lot of stuff sounded like heresy.
There's many things that we don't follow halakha on the Rambam. So
I'm asking why he's an authority that you should judge anything by. Argument. Okay, the Rambam is politically aligned with Islamic leadership. He is deemed a heretic by the rabbis of the time. why do you follow anything that he says is normative belief?
Not all the rabbis. Not all the rabbis.
Not all the rabbis. The majority. You said the majority, right?
I don't know. I wasn't there. No,
All
I
right,
think that's this
listen.
is a silly argument. You're just
I'd like
And
It's not a
Maimonides on the
silly
flip side,
argument at all.
and the Maimonides on the flip side condemned all the Kabbalists. So, like, why do you accept Kabbalah? I'm going to read this quote here: "The love
Are
of
we
your
talking
neighbor
about
is the only
the
door
authority of the rabbis?
out
Are
of
we
the
talking
dungeon
about
of self."
Kabbalah?
George
Are we
McDonald.
talking... So you're
Well,
changing the topic of discussion.
well, Kabbalah has found its way into normative Jewish beliefs as well.
Of course. Remember, all this stuff is ever evolving, and whatever your local rabbi tells you is the word of God, you believe it because you refuse to use your own brain and you just want to be following a convenient system that tells you how to think. The reality is you don't trust that the word of God is enough of a unification. When you ask me what is the unification for Israel, the answer is the word of God. The answer is the clear Torah laws that God says do not add or subtract, do not go to the right
But
or the
they're
left
not
from
clear.
these.
They're
So
not always
they're not
clear.
clear. God's not clear. God doesn't know how to talk. God's an idiot. He can't communicate with me. That's how you sound. You
No, that's
understand?
why he gives authority to the judges.
You and your fake
That's why he gives
system
authority
of
to the
rabbi.
judges of Israel, and the priests and the Levites.
Hey,
The Kohanim and the Levim.
understand.
He gives authority to the
Understand.
priests and Levites.
Okay, which already rules out your local rabbi, however you cut it. But the bottom line is that God has given us a very
And the
clear law,
Shofet.
and God tells
And the
us,
judge.
and God tells us
Judges
to
of
follow
100,
those
judges
laws.
of 10.
That doesn't mean that the Torah is not understandable, and doesn't mean that it's not enough common ground. Already, if we followed the literal words of the Torah, we would be way, way further
Israel,
along than we are right
he hasn't
now.
actually
That's why I
answered a
said-
single question that we have about why these are authority
That's
claims
what-
are legitimate.
Yeah, but again,
He's
the
only
fact
ever
that it
made a
provides you,
whataboutism.
I
the
did,
fact
but you
that it
don't like
provides
my answer.
you
That's why
with
you
a
kicked me out
convenient
twice.
solution,
You kicked me
the
out twice.
fact,
Okay,
the
buddy,
fact that
Yitzhak, I kicked you out twice and let you back in twice also. Okay, so don't play victim here.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
under
Can
a
I just
little
say,
different name.
from the perspective
You-
of two people that grew up as Orthodox Jews, it doesn't seem to me, and I'd wager that Israel feels the same way, it doesn't even feel to me, and I feel bad actually for the audience who's watching. I also feel bad for the Jewish community at large, because I don't think that what you're saying is even representative of the Jewish standpoint. And I, as an Orthodox Jew in the past, would have been embarrassed to watch this.
Well,
Because
I'm sorry. I
there's
don't
there's
agree
Jews
with that,
in
but
there's
okay,
Jews in
you
the chat who
feel it.
disagree with me, who think you're an embarrassment.
Well, the thing is that no other.
And I feel
Orthodox
bad
Jew
because
has
I feel
been
like
on this.
I feel like I'm strawmanning and misrepresenting Judaism by talking to you. To be totally frank.
No other Orthodox Jew has been on this stream, so I'm trying
Listen.
to do my best. So
listen, you are providing a convenient solution to a much bigger problem, which is we have certain doubts in law, therefore we're going to just take whatever the rabbi said as law. That's too convenient. If God is giving you a challenge, the answer is not avoid the challenge. If there are things
I
that
did
are not
say that.
clear to you in the Torah, one second, if there are things that are not clear to you in the Torah, we can have those conversations. The same way the rabbis had those conversations 2,000 years ago in the Talmud, we can continue that conversation. The problem is you don't want to have a conversation. You just want to appeal to authority. But it's a baseless authority. God gives authority to judges to implement his laws, not to your local rabbi to make up bullshit and pull it out of his ass, which is what they do. So this is the conversation we're having. I'm talking from a point of view where I can see that the courts are corrupted. I can see that the courts are actually non-existent. They don't have any real authority or any real power. So remember, you are an individual, you are an independent person, and your choice to follow the system of rabbinic law is your choice. No one's stopping you from doing that. We're having an argument as to what does the Torah actually require of you? And the answer is
you said,
follow what is written.
Israel, I
Follow
found
what
somebody
is written.
with a more Jewish name than you in the chat. Malki Gold says absolutely Ash in Israel. So there's a Jew in the chat who thinks that you're embarrassing Judaism.
Well, why are they not speaking then? Why am I the only one?
Because it's an undefendable position.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Because
I'm defending it.
there's a reason
you just
why.
said, Israel, you just said that there are things in the Torah that are not clear. You just admitted that there are things that are not clear, and that's exactly the reason given.
I admitted it. So now we have to just
okay.
listen to whatever the Rebbe says because it's not clear, right?
But that's exactly why.
How convenient.
That's exactly the defense for why in last Parsha Yitro, why the judges are established, because
I
there are
am not
things that
saying
are not clear,
I'm not saying
that
we don't need courts.
Okay.
I'm not saying that.
All right. I
I'm
want
saying
to wrap. I want to wrap this up
are
here.
unjust and false.
I want to wrap this up here.
won't accept
Yitzhak,
any court that's been, and there have been many
Yitzhak,
courts.
I want to
and
ask you
don't
just a
accept any of them.
couple. I want to ask you a couple of questions. You've been asking a lot. You've also been filibustering. Let me ask you a couple of questions, just to establish maybe a standard of what is Jewish orthodoxy and what isn't. Okay, just so we are on the same page. Okay, in order for a person who is a Gentile to convert to Judaism, according to rabbinic law, do they have to accept the authority of the rabbis and the Torah Shebaal Peh, the oral law?
I mean, they have to accept the Torah, the 613 commandments, and the.
You're
So yes.
intentionally playing stupid here, or you're actually stupid. I'm sorry. Do
No, I'm not.
people who
I'm not
convert to
playing.
Judaism have to accept the oral law, the Torah Shebaal Peh? And if you don't know what that term is, I don't even know why you're
They
here.
have to accept the Torah. So that includes
Right.
the Torah Shebiksav and the Torah Shebaal Peh.
Okay, so if they don't accept the Torah Shebaal Peh, they're not a valid convert, correct?
I'm not so.
You don't
buggy
know
on that.
fundamentals of Judaism, and you're debating Orthodox Judaism
I mean-
here as a valid claim?
I mean,
You don't know the very
no,
basics?
No, I know that I would say yes, essentially yes. Yeah.
Yes,
But
they have to.
But
Okay.
it's
Now, is there...
the standard for conversion
Okay.
is not so high.
Okay.
According to
They
the
have to.
Mishnah, so.
They have to accept the oral Torah along with the written Torah, correct?
Essentially yes.
Dude, that's obvious from a rabbinic point of view.
Okay. That was incredibly difficult for the most simple question that you could be asked as a Jew.
Okay. Next question.
Now,
Next question.
do rabbinic ordinances supersede written Torah commands?
In what way? What do you mean by supersede?
Can a rabbinic obligation take precedence over a biblical obligation? When you have two conflicting things...
No.
Okay.
That's why we say mitzvahs deraisa and mitzvah derabanan.
Right.
That's why we
Deoraita, for
separate.
anyone listening, Deoraita means from the written Torah. Derabanan means from the rabbis. There is a clear category distinction in Jewish Orthodoxy. A derabanan, a rabbinic ordinance, cannot supersede a biblical ordinance when there is a conflict. Not necessarily a contradiction, but even when there's certain conflict in which thing is to be done first or so on. Okay, so now, is there a biblical deoraita injunction to treat the convert with respect and treat them well?
Yeah, absolutely. 36 times, 36 places.
Perfect.
It says in the Torah.
Now, let me give you an example. A convert to Judaism accepts the oral Torah and is converted legitimately. If they were to apostatize, do they stay a Jew?
Yeah, they do.
Correct. Okay, according to Orthodox Judaism, obviously. Now,
Yeah.
Rabbinic Judaism,
Well,
according to the
you
Torah,
always-
would be very different. But now, let's say somebody converts to Judaism, accepts the oral Torah, is converted legitimately by the rabbis, and he is in, let's say, financially difficult times, whatever it is for him, is having trouble paying for his kids to eat and go to school and stuff like that. And he is given a job by the community as a mashgiach, which means observing Jewish kosher laws and making sure the food is kosher. And this is his source of income. This is the only way he can make a living. Okay. Now, let's say he decides that he does not, in fact, believe that he should wait between eating chicken and dairy, which is not only a rabbinic ordinance, it's a very late rabbinic ordinance. He also does not believe that electricity on the
it's in
Shabbat...
Onkelos. It's not that late.
What?
It's in Onkelos.
Chicken
Not to
and
cook
dairy?
meat.
Chicken,
dairy.
chicken and dairy together is in onkelos?
Oh, chicken. No, sorry. Chicken,
Okay.
you're right. Yeah.
So, yeah, last time I checked, chickens don't have milk. But I don't know what chickens you're raising. But so
Yeah, right.
so let's say he decides, no, this rabbinical ordinance of not eating chicken and dairy together, he doesn't care about that. He's going to go have some chicken parmesan. He also doesn't think the electricity on Shabbat is violating the Torah. That's a rabbinic ordinance as well. Bunch of other stuff that he decides just don't make any sense. Should the people there fire him from his job and leave his family destitute?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
Should he be removed from his position as a mashgiach, and should he be ostracized from the community until he keeps Jewish normative beliefs and practices?
I personally don't think so. Personally, I don't think so.
I'm not asking your opinion. I'm asking what the legal ruling of the Jewish community is.
I'm not knowledgeable enough to know the legal ruling on that.
You don't know what the ruling on that would be? You don't
I-
know that.
n-
You don't know that.
not-
You don't know that
not
to be a
really.
mashgiach, you have to be a shomer Shabbos Jew according to rabbinic law.
Whoever
That's a-
goes
that's a-
against
So
the consensus of
didn't
the
say Shomer
rabbis
Shabbos.
is.
you didn't say Shomer Shabbos.
But if he
I
uses
said he's
electricity,
violating
he's not-
rabbinic. I said he's violating rabbinic ordinances about the Sabbath.
Oh, I thought you said something
No,
else.
he's now violating rabbinic ordinances on the kosher and the Sabbath. Do you think he should be ostracized
Right,
from
so
the Jewish
that's-
community until he believes it? Do you think people should stop eating at his house and stop eating at restaurants
Like
where
I
he's
said,
a mashgiach?
I'm not the proper rabbi to ask
What
that
is
question.
okay? Again, appeal to the
not my-
rabbi. I'm asking you if you know, as an
I would
Orthodox
think
Jew,
no. I would think no.
that's what's done though in practice. That's the legal ruling of the Jewish community. If somebody is not a shomer Shabbos, shomer kasher Jew, you don't eat at
Yeah,
their
it makes
house.
sense. But
You
if
don't
you're not
participate
Shomer
with them in
Shabbos,
active.
Then you reject
you
the
don't.
Torah.
You don't participate
according
with-
to the
rejecting the
rabbis.
Torah.
No, Shomer
I'm asking
Shabbos
you-
according to the rabbis.
Yeah.
Kosher according to the rabbis. Not
So what
biblical.
does the Jewish community accept that this person can be a mashgiach? You can eat at their house. You can have them do things in the shul for certain religious purposes. Could you
It's like
participate
asking
them in
if,
the Jewish community? No, they're ostracized. They're
It's like
considered. You're not shomer
Yeah,
Shabbos.
but-
You're not Orthodox. You don't get to be part of the community in that way as a good member of good standing as a shomer Shabbos Jew. Right? That's
It's
the
like
in
asking
practice.
if an openly gay priest can serve mass. It's
Oh,
the
of
same,
course.
It's the same
Can you answer?
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Can you answer the question, please?
Yeah, I just
Did
did.
you
I
just
said it
equate
violates
eating
the
eating
precept.
chicken and milk together to fucking a man in the ass? Is that really what just happened in your retarded
Well,
Orthodox
well,
worldview?
Hold on a second.
No, I'm just saying.
One second.
I'm not
Can you
saying
answer
they're
the
same,
question?
but it's
Does the
like
Jewish
saying
community? Does the
if
Jewish
someone
community?
who-
No, please answer the question. Does the Jewish community ostracize people, especially from roles as like a mashgiach or rabbi or whatever else it is, if they don't keep rabbinic law on the Shabbat or kosher?
I already answered. I already told you my.
Yes, they are
my
ostracized.
response.
Correct?
I don't know. I haven't.
You don't know?
So
What Jewish community are you living in?
All right, man. Like
Okay.
It's very
The
haven't
fact
clear
is,
that-
the fact
that's
is,
a
the
very
reason you won't
specific
answer.
case.
The fact is, the
Very
reason you won't
specific case.
answer is because you would have to admit that the rabbinic ordinances about chicken and milk supersedes in the Jewish mind today the biblical ordinance of respecting the convert.
No, I don't. I don't concede that. I don't concede that. So.
Yeah, my
You
audience
don't
doesn't like
concede
your
anything.
language, Israel.
You're giving
I'm
the
sorry.
least charitable interpretation of a very specific.
It's not the least
circumstance
charitable.
with-
It's not the least charitable. It's the
Yeah, it is.
orthodoxy. It's
It's
the
least
orthodox
charitable to
stance.
Judaism.
It's the orthodox stance.
all right, go
It's the Orthodox Jewish
ponder
stance.
on why
You
the
can't
righteous
you can't
judges-
sit there and tell me and
sorry.
Israel,
I just-
who grew up in the Orthodox Jewish community, that that is not the stance. In fact,
Listen,
you
man,
as
I
a
just
Baal
told
Tshuva
you.
probably know that.
We gave you
Even
enough
not a
food for
convert.
thought for you to go ponder why you think that rabbis who make judgments about not mixing chicken and milk together are somehow the fulfillment of men of truth who hate greed, who don't take bribes, and who give judgments of truth in accordance with the word of God,
But
which
it-
is the
but
standard
one-
for
but
judges
one
in
is
the
not-
Torah.
one is not-
Hey, shut up for a split second. Explain to me how these
Oh,
idiot rabbis who are making up such nonsense are somehow a fulfillment of the biblical judges of the Torah. Because they're not. They're the furthest thing from it. I'm telling you right now that you are looking for a convenient authority to rely upon when Ash just demonstrated to you how hypocritical and stupid the rabbinical authority is and their laws are. They have no basis and no bearing on the Torah. And they're a complete mockery. They're a complete mockery of the religion that
made
God
up
intended.
You just made up an imaginary case of a very specific situation.
I made up an
Wasn't
imaginary case. I'm
imaginary?
talking about
Wasn't
legitimate
imaginary at all.
circumstances. I'm talking about a mashgiach that I know
Did
that
it
was
happen?
fired.
Did it happen?
Oh, there you go.
Okay,
It
well,
happened.
but the thing we just said.
I
Though,
used to
that if
I used to be a
someone's not Shomer
mashgiach.
Shabbos-
Like I know some people that
If
this
someone's
actually
not
happened
Shomer
to.
Shabbos, then they reject the Torah. Then they
I
reject
asked
No, no,
you,
the Torah.
I clarified
According to the rabbis.
rabbinic ordinances, and you said if they don't keep those rabbinic ordinances, then yes, they would be ostracized from those positions. They must be. That's the Orthodox Jewish standpoint,
Because they
which
reject the Torah.
supersedes.
Because
But if they're a
rejecting the Torah.
convert, that would supersede a written Torah. You promised at the beginning of this that the oral Torah does not supersede the written Torah.
like I said, it's a very specific circumstance, imaginary one. I
And
don't.
I'm sorry
like
again.
I said,
I apologize.
Have you ever one second.
I apologize to the
You
Jewish
really
community in
disprove-
general because this Amaretz, as they're called, doesn't actually know the Jewish standpoint on anything. It
One
seems.
second. I find this to be hilarious that you are faulting Ash of giving you a niche, random, made-up scenario when the Talmud is only the most niche, absurd,
random, made-up scenarios.
made-up scenarios. That is the entire Talmud. You clearly haven't even read it. The ridiculousness of the laws that the rabbis talk about, the insane scenarios that they create, pretending again that all of their ridiculous opinions are the word of God. There is no basis for that historically, logically, scripturally. You are following a dead system of false, invisible authority from 2,000 years ago. Give it up. Use your brain. Read the book and try to communicate with God and not go through some rabbi to tell you what to do every second of your life.
like the Catholic Church.
You have to take that up with Ash.
Yeah. Well, you should take it up with Ash because you guys.
Right. So
I'm
we
debating
definitively.
you. I'm
supposedly have
debating
so
you.
much
I'm not-
agreement.
You were
You guys have
definitively
so much agreement
proved.
about who has authority.
Hold on. So you definitively were proved that rabbinic Judaism contradicts itself and has no basis in the Torah. And instead of going,
Catholicism.
you know what, guys, even if I disagree, there's some really,
rabbis
really
contradict
damning
themselves?
evidence there. Let me think about that. Instead of being even the most remotely intellectually honest that you could possibly be,
That's why
it
there's
becomes
a-
whataboutism
that's
again.
why-
Yes, I'm Catholic and he's Karaite. We don't have the same theology or the same beliefs, but we both know the rabbis are full of crap.
You reject the Torah.
Also, by your own admission,
reject the
you
Torah
equated
completely.
rabbinic Judaism with Catholicism. So I guess you're just following another version of
Yeah,
Catholicism.
and somebody's asking you if the
No.
Catholic Church is food police.
not to that
Fish?
extent.
Fish on
By the
Friday.
way, do you know what the
Yes,
Mashgiach's
I
job
hold on a
is?
second. To answer your question, yes, I will be fasting quite a bit over the coming season, from various food items, from food in general for certain times. It's not if okay, you weren't Catholic, but no, it's not the same thing as rabbinic ordinances. No, it's not efficacious for salvation. No, it's not binding law. We could go on and on, but it's not the same thing at all. It's a spiritual practice.
Also, remember, you who have claimed that the rabbis haven't made up anything are the same rabbis that say on the topic of mashgiach, who is a rabbi who's supposed to go to a restaurant to turn on the fire, because if a goy turns on the fire, then the food is not kosher according to the rabbis' made up laws. So how about just another example
these
of
are
rabbis
fences.
making up
These
laws?
are fences to keep
These
the
are
Torah.
fences.
These
So you
are
know what I have to
fences
say to the rabbis?
not
Take
to
your fence and
contradict.
shove it up your ass. Shove your fence up your ass. It's not the law of God.
Yeah, who gave them the right to make
Well,
fences that are
sounds very
legally
godly.
binding forever?
That's a very godly thing for you to say.
Oh, I'm
You're
sorry.
playing
Is my
vic- you're playing
profanity-
victim.
Is my profanity offending you? I guess I'm
not playing
angry
victim.
like Jesus. I don't give a shit what you say. Answer my argument.
Well, I think
Where
it's,
does the
it's
Torah
hypocritical
say
of you.
that non-Jews are not allowed to turn on your fire? That sounds like non-Jew hatred to me.
I think it's
that you are in
hypocritical
full support
to
of.
attack me and not to attack the Catholic Church and following
I'm
your
not
rabbis and
debating.
making
I'm not
yourself
debating
into a rabbi.
Catholicism right now. I'm debating rabbinic Judaism. So don't deflect.
You make yourself a rabbi. You make the Catholic Church a rabbis. You are rabbinic Jews. You interpret the Torah the way you want to, not the way it's always been
Yes,
done by people who know much better than you.
I'll concede your point that the Catholic Church is the correct fulfillment of rabbinic Judaism.
Yeah, those are your rabbis. So
Okay.
that's why the Pope wears a kippah, because he's your rabbi.
Okay. No one's saying that anything's wrong with making up your own readings of the Torah. We're all here to read the book and have the conversation. I want to have a conversation with
But
you,
you
and you want
attack-
to tell me.
You
And you want to tell me.
Orthodox
You want to
Jews for keep the way they keep the Torah, but Orthodox
Yeah.
Jews that is
because
very
they claim that
hypocritical.
they
That's very
claim
hypocritical.
that their interpretations are binding law. Their interpretations, which are demonstrably not in the text at all. They have no vague even connection to
Well,
the text.
You
Like,
claim
what
that,
order
but
you're
I don't
supposed to-
agree with that.
Oh, you don't agree
claim
with that?
but I don't agree.
You don't agree that the Torah says nothing about tying your right shoe and then your left shoe and then your right shoe, or cutting your nails and skipping the
How
fingers?
do you know? How do you know it doesn't say anything about that?
How do I know it? Because I read it. Genius. Have you read the 5 books of Moses? Where does it talk
Okay,
about
but
how
what's
to cut
wrong
your
with doing
nails
it? There's
and how
nothing
to
wrong
tie-
with doing it. So why are you
I
attacking
told you
Jews for
what's
doing
wrong
it?
with it. I told you what's wrong with it. What's wrong with it?
Why are you
is
attacking your
pretending-
brothers when there's so much bigger You guys-
And from that, we
you
will
guys
derive
like-
that you can't turn on your phone.
that you can't turn
You guys
on
like to
electricity.
pick on the minority. You guys like to pick on the
I
minority.
like to pick
but
on the minority.
What are you talking about?
I like
The
to
Jews
pick
are
on the
the
We
minority.
have a lot of enemies. We have a
Are
lot
you
of people that
playing?
hate us,
Oh, so that makes it
and
true.
you
So
want
that makes rabbinic
Oh,
Judaism true.
you want to join with the.
anti-Semitism.
So that makes rabbinic Judaism
No, I
true
didn't say that.
because
I didn't even
people
use that
target
word.
Jews.
Okay,
Because
I
people
don't want
target
to.
Jews, that
I
makes
don't want
rabbinic
this to
Judaism true.
become.
We're both
I don't want this to
Jews.
become an
We
attack.
are
We're both
literally
Jews who have
Jews.
at some point been victims of anti-Semitism.
Yeah,
Like, what are you
yeah.
on
So
about?
why
Why does that
is
have anything to
this
do with the
your
rabbis
why is
are
this your
true?
life's mission to attack Jews for how they
That's
keep
not
the
my
Torah?
life's
They
That's
mission.
not
That's
my
not
life's
Asher's
they
mission.
want
life
to keep
mission.
the Torah.
Our
They
life's
want to keep
mission
God's
is
word.
okay.
God
Okay.
forbid.
I already
God
told
forbid.
you my criticism is very clear. Claiming that your interpretations, which have no evidence in the text whatsoever, to be binding
You say
law
that,
that
but
everyone
I don't
has to
agree with that.
follow.
Yeah. By the way,
Okay, where does
Israel is actually in
have-
the minority
we
because
have-
Karaite Jews are the smallest,
exactly it's
one of the smallest
tiniest
religious
minority.
religious groups in the world. So technically, you're attacking the
Yeah.
minority.
Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
you're joining with the majority of Christians, Catholics, to
No,
attack Orthodox
I'm
Jews.
not. I'm not Christian. I'm having a conversation with a Catholic
No,
man, so
Ash
now I'm
Mays is
Catholic.
Catholic.
Yeah, I'm not Catholic.
You're joining with
I'm
that
having a
Catholic
conversation.
to attack Orthodox Jews for what they
Okay.
believe.
No,
when they
we're
want
inviting
keep
you
the
to a
Torah.
conversation to try to demonstrate that rabbinic Judaism is correct, which you have failed to do miserably. Worse than anyone I've ever met, by the way.
Well, no one else has been on the podcast.
I've had other people come on
no
in other
Orthodox
streams.
Jews been on here. Okay, I hope so because I don't. When there's it
Yeah,
says in
Jonas,
Pirkei Avot, when
Jonas
there's no man be
Jonas
the man.
Perry,
And
who
so
was in the chat, by
against-
the way, Rabbi Jonas Perry, who was in the chat, has sent me emails comprising 5 or 6 sentences that have done a better job than everything you've said in the entirety of the conversation.
Well, great. Okay, great.
Also, you should
I hope-
wonder
I
why
hope
why
someone else
your
comes on.
rabbi saviors make you an ignoramus and rabbinic law debate two men on the internet when they won't do it themselves because there's too big of a coward.
For the-
as they
for the
sit
record,
there
I've
hiding
invited-
in their yeshiva.
I've invited several people to have the discussion and turned down
Of
by all.
course. Yeah, they're
Well,
cowards.
I
I've
wish
spoken
they
to
would,
Orthodox
because
rabbis who say,
you say-
I can't go on the camera. I'm afraid of the camera. I'm a little bitch.
You
I'm
say
just going to
there's no
go
evidence.
terrorize people in my little secret shul and control their lives, but I can't actually make my case in a public forum. So yeah, it's very clear. You're the one who has to go
You
do
say-
their dirty work.
You say there's no evidence that for why Jews keep the Torah the way they keep the Torah, but there's every shul is full of libraries of books explaining why we keep the Torah the way we keep
Yeah,
the Torah.
every
The
kid's
Shulchan Aruch,
library is full
the
of Curious
Torah.
George books and Cat in the Hat. Let me overwhelm you
But
with books, and therefore it's
you-
true. I'll
you
just
with
fill
your-
10,000 books with
Which
ChatGPT.
is
Now it's true.
which
Your
okay?
genius brain.
Which is the first book ever written that makes the claims that you're making?
Which claim are you referring to?
The Authority of the Rabbis.
Which book?
Which is the first book in
I mean,
history that contains an explicit claim of authority of the rabbis?
I mean, I've heard historians say that the New Testament is the
It's
first.
the
book.
first. It's one of the
Because-
biggest examples of like the culture at the time. It doesn't affirm the authority of the rabbis as a binding eternal
Matthew 23.
covenant that's
Whatever
claimed
they
by the
tell you to
Mishnah.
observe, that observe and do.
Again,
Describes
I
the Pharisees' sin,
debunked that right at the
whatever-
beginning of the conversation
Whatever they
the
tell
first
to
time you
observe,
came
he
on.
did not debunk. He did not debunk it.
Yeah, you could
And-
also watch
and
my
you-
live
you
stream
don't
on it, by
realize
the way,
that
where I
that's-
went through the entire chapter.
That's the verse.
But you're
that's the
picking
verse
three
that the
you're picking 3 verses out of the context of
Catholic
the rest of the
Church
chapter
teaches.
where he says that the people who follow them are a different religion.
No, he says
Yes.
whatever they tell you to observe, that observe and
No,
do.
he says you will go across the sea to make one proselyte, and they are twice as much a son of hell as you.
No.
Yes,
He
he
says-
does say
Yes,
that.
that's what he
Matthew
says.
23.
Yes, in Matthew
Matthew
23,
23,
he immediately
verse
follows
2.
by saying,
Whatever
"You
they tell you to
rabbis,
observe,
you
that observe and do.
Pharisees will
But
go,
you-
you Pharisees will go across the sea to find one person to convert to your religion and make them twice as much a son of hell as yourself." That's the continuation of Matthew 23 that you want to leave out.
No, that's not.
That's not in
I'm
Matthew
leaving that
23.
out, 'cause he
Go
says,
everyone who's watching, go
whatever
watch my
they-
live stream on it.
he
The guy's
says,
lying through his
don't
teeth.
you-
So you're actually
you to
lying through your
bring-
teeth there.
For you to
You're
bring
lying
Je-
through your teeth.
Jesus, that the
because they
pro-
say and they don't do. He says don't, and that's the exact thing you're saying because
You are
those
not
that were
reading the rest
hypocrites,
of what he said
don't
because
do
you
like
know
that.
that it contradicts you. You're lying through
I
your
can think of
teeth.
no greater hypocrisy
Why-
than nullifying the Torah.
Why
by
are
the
you
Catholic Church.
lying? Why
That
are
is
you
the biggest
lying through your
hypocrisy you
teeth
could ever
about
imagine.
Matthew 23? Why are you
And you
lying
think
through your teeth about
Jesus
Matthew
would
23?
approve of the Catholic
why are you lying through your teeth about what
Nullifying
is
the
said in
Torah.
Matthew 23? I just
Nullifying the
quoted
Sabbath.
you verbatim from Matthew 23,
You think
which I'm
Jesus
very
would
proud of
not call out the
myself because I don't know a lot of New
hypocrisy
Testament by
the
heart.
golden
I think
palaces of the Pope,
it's
the
crazy for
golden
you
churches, and all the wealth of the
to
Catholic
bring
Church. You think Jesus would approve of that?
the
Not call that
Nice
Pharisees
cross
hypocrisy.
literally
chest, sure.
killed Jesus. The Pharisees literally killed Jesus, dude. Like you really think that Jesus was a fan of the Pharisees? There's the
Is
whole New Testament is
crucifixion a form?
about his
Crucifixion is
war.
a form of Pharisee. You know, okay. You don't really know the New Testament. I don't think so. I don't know. The Pharisees did not kill Jesus. It says
Oh,
that
how
Pharisees
convenient! Because
warned.
the Pharisees, like they have been for the past 2,000 plus years, have had
It
zero
literally
control
says.
in any government,
It
have had
literally
zero
says.
control in any government, and have had to appeal to the higher authority of the Goyim, the Romans, or the Americans, or the Europeans, to do their own bidding. Okay, so Rabbinic Judaism has always been a political tool, and yes, they have always colluded
No,
with whatever leading government was there to fulfill what
it
they
was the
wanted them to do.
Sadducees. It was the chief priests and the
I
Sadducees
mean, the
who
claim of the
condemned
Talmud is that they
Jesus.
killed all the students of
And
Jesus
were in
by stoning.
collaboration with. They were in collaboration
Nice.
with the Romans, the Sadducees, not the
I
Pharisees.
think they called Matthew Matai, and there's another one called Akai.
The
or something
Talmud,
like that. They made up a
like,
bunch of names for them.
yeah,
Yeah. Again, listen, I don't
but
claim to be part of
crucifixion
No,
any
that-
is
group
not
other than
a
those who
form
follow
of
the
Torah
Torah.
execution. Crucifixion is not a form of Roman
Yet
is a form of Roman execution,
the
not
Jews didn't have any
Pharisees.
authority. The Jews didn't have any authority. That's why they had to appeal to the Romans. The Romans were ruling
Okay, but
Israel.
that's a different
It's the
discussion.
same
That
exact
that's
discussion.
another.
You're arguing.
You
You're
no,
making
you
you're
asked
making a false
what was the
argument though.
first.
What he was saying was Jesus was obviously not a fan of the Pharisees, and the Pharisees were obviously
He
not a
was
fan of Jesus,
Pharisee. No, he
and
was a Pharisee.
and they
He
wanted
said,
him
"Do what
dead.
the
And
Pharisees tell you to observe and do."
multiple times throughout the New Testament, it says that
All
they
the
wanted to kill
Pharisees.
him, which is what you're
Acts
appealing to.
23. No, it says that the Pharisees warned Jesus that Herod was trying to kill him to protect him. The Pharisees warned
You claim,
Jesus
hold on,
that
at the beginning
Herod
of this,
was
you
trying to kill
claim that you know the New Testament really
What?
well. I'm a novice in the New Testament, and I know that you're lying.
him. Yeah, it does. Look it up. Look it up.
No, it
I
says
know
that the
New Testament
Pharisees
much better
tried
than
to get
most,
him
I guarantee
killed.
you.
The Pharisees tried to kill him on multiple
speak
occasions.
against
The
Caesar.
Pharisees tried to kill him on multiple occasions and wanted to kill him on multiple
they-
occasions.
Not the Pharisees. Maybe there were some Pharisees, but it says that Pharisees tried to protect him too.
Where?
It says that. And he said
read
whatever
it.
the Pharisees
Doesn't
tell you
say
to observe,
that.
observe and do. You asked me what was the earliest source that affirms rabbinic authority, and I tell you it might be the New Testament according to historians.
So again, anyone can go watch the stream I did on Matthew 23, how the guy is just lying through his teeth that he does not affirm the authority of the rabbinic law. But let's
Whatever
leave that
they tell you
aside.
to observe,
What's
that
the
observe and
first accepted Jewish source?
Whatever
That's
they
all,
tell you
I'll indulge you
to
here.
observe, that observe
What's
and
the
do.
first objective
Whatever.
Orthodox Jewish source accepted by Judaism that has this claim about the rabbis?
Well, accepted by the rabbis is like a different story. So
Yeah,
you're
accepted
talking
by the rabbis.
The Mishnah. You're talking about the Mishnah.
Oh, the
probably.
Mishnah.
So they
the
give
Mishnah
themselves the authority. How amazing! They say,
No,
listen,
the
listen
Torah,
to me
God
because I
gives them
said
the
so.
authority. God gives them
Ah.
the authority. God gives Moses the authority. God gives the judges authority, and Jesus affirms that those are the judges, the Pharisees.
And the judges are the Pharisees, the Orthodox rabbis. Yeah, again, that's your false argument. You continue to make a false argument.
Unbroken chain. Look it up.
Unbroken
Look it up.
chain,
Mishnah
unbroken
Torah,
paganism chain, paganism preceding Moses. Unbroken
Rambam. Not
chain.
paganism. It's keeping Torah.
I'm just
and you're
unbroken
attacking your
chains
fellow
of
fellow
unbroken
Jews.
chains of
keeping
not.
Torah.
No, I'm
Very sad.
attacking
Very sad.
people. Very sad. Oh, shake your head. Shake your head. Wow. I'm attacking people that try to force
let's do
their
something here.
interpretations on others.
Let's do something here just as an exercise. The man we're discussing with is saying that Jesus affirmed the authority of the rabbis in Matthew 23. Let's read Matthew 23 together. How about? Okay.
Tovia Singer says that too.
Oh, the Rebbe. The Rebbe
Tuvia!
himself.
Tuvia! Tuvia's the reason I'm a Christian today, buddy. I've talked about it a lot.
That's very sad. Very sad.
Tuvia's one of the leading reasons why I'm a Christian today. It was a conversation where I...
Change religion.
Are you
Shouldn't
playing
let one
stupid
man
on purpose?
decide your religion.
I didn't say that he convinced me that Christianity is true. I said he's the reason why I'm a Christian today. It was in my conversation with Tovia Singer that I interviewed him and did a video with, where I found him to be so disingenuous and sneaky and lying through his teeth in several cases, not willing to address certain things, that led me to reinvestigate Christianity.
Yeah. I think the Catholic
Now,
Church is disingenuous. Many people think
that's
others are
great. It
disingenuous.
doesn't prove your point. Now, let's read Matthew 23, because you went to Matthew 23 as proof that Jesus affirms the Pharisees. Then Jesus spoke to the multitudes and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in the seat of Moses. Therefore, whatever they tell you to observe, that
Whatever.
observe and do, but do not do according to their works. For they say and do not do. For they bind. Okay, you want to shut your face for a second and let me read, because you obviously don't want me to get to it?
Is that how Jesus would talk?
Yes. Wow, baby.
For they bind heavy burdens hard to bear. They bind those burdens hard to bear, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. But all their work they do to be seen by men. They make their phylacteries broad and enlarge the borders of their garments. They love the best places at the feasts and the best seats in the synagogue. This is, like, by the way, reading about modern Judaism too, by the way. Greetings in the marketplaces. They like to be called by men, Rabbi, Rabbi. But you do not be called Rabbi, for one is your teacher, the Christ, and you are all brethren. Do not call anyone on earth your father, for one is your Father, he is in heaven. And do not be called teachers, for one is your teacher, who is Christ. But he who is greatest among you shall be your servant, and whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and who humbles himself will be exalted. But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. For you neither go in yourselves, nor do you allow those who are entering to go in. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you devour widows' houses, and for pretense make long prayers. Therefore, you make the long prayers. Therefore, you will receive greater condemnation. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you travel land and sea to win one proselyte. What is a proselyte? Can we define that? Somebody who you convert to your religion. And when he is won, you make him twice as much a son of hell as yourselves. Woe to you, blind guides, who say, whoever swears by the temple, it is nothing, but whoever swears by gold of the temple, he is obliged to perform it. Fools and blind, for which is greater, the gold of the temple or that sanctifies the gold? And whoever swears by the altar, it is nothing, but whoever swears by the gift that is on it, he is obliged to perform it. Sorry, I read that twice. Therefore, he who swears by the altar swears by it and all things on it. He who swears by the temple swears by it and by whom who dwells in it. And he who swears by heaven swears by the throne of God and by him who sits on it. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay the tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matter of the law, justice and mercy and faith. These you ought to have done without leaving others undone. Blind guides who strain out a gnat and swallow camel. I'll read that again.
These you ought to have done.
I'll read that. I'll read that again. For you pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faith.
Yeah.
Faith above the ritual laws. Again,
you should
hold on a second. Let me finish here. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you cleanse the outside of the dish and cup, but inside they are full of extortion and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisee, first cleanse the inside of the cup and dish, that the outside of them may be clean also. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like whitewashed tombs, which indeed appear beautiful outwardly, but inside are full of dead men's bones and all uncleanliness. Even so, you outwardly appear righteous to men, but inside you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you build the tombs. Because you build, obviously what's internal in the Pharisees is not lawful. Thank you. Adorn the monuments of the righteous.
Law? Which law?
The law of Moses.
The Pharisees' law is lawless.
The Pharisees' law is unlawful by the law of Moses.
That's not what he says. He says, whatever they tell you to observe, that observe.
Whatever they tell you observe. When they're sitting in the seat of Moses. And then he goes on an entire conversation about don't listen to the Pharisees' traditions and their nonsense.
The authority of Moses they have.
Only when discussing the law of Moses. And then the rest of the chapter, 2 verses about listening to them when they teach the law of Moses. And then 30 verses about how the Pharisees are full of crap. Because you build the tombs of prophets and adorn the monuments of the righteous, and then say, if we have lived in the days of our fathers, we would not have been partakers with them in the blood of prophets. Therefore you are witnesses against yourselves, that you are sons of those who murdered the prophets. Fill up then the measure of your father's guilt. Serpents, brood of vipers, how can you escape the condemnation of hell? Therefore indeed I send you prophets, wise men, and scribes. Some of them you will kill. Again, Jesus is saying, I will send you prophets, wise men, and scribes. Did we catch that? Some of them who
He
you
says the
will kill
wisdom
and
of God
crucify.
says, in,
Jesus is speaking as God, correct. Thank
no,
you.
he doesn't. He
That
doesn't claim to be.
I will send you prophets,
And
wise men, and
and
scribes. Who sends prophets?
you accept. Okay, you accept
Can I finish
the
the
New
chapter,
Testament
please?
as authority,
That
but
now
Israelites do not accept
suddenly the
this
New
as
Testament
authority.
isn't authority anymore. It was authority when you thought it proved your point, but when it
No, he
buries
says
you,
whatever
but
they
when
tell you to
it but when
observe,
it
that
but when
observe
it
and do.
buries you, when it buries you and tells you you're
No,
using this
it
out
doesn't
of
bury me.
context and lying to people and lying to
No,
yourself.
I'm not using it out of context.
Two
You're using it
verses.
out of context. He says, whatever they tell you to observe, that observe and do. The
two
Pharisees.
two verses about listening to them when they're discussing the law of Moses,
And he
and then
says, you must
35
tithe
verses
mint and
about
cumin.
how they are
You
dishonest
must tithe
hypocrites.
mint and cumin.
Where did
He
he
says
say you
they're
must tithe
lawless.
mint? Where did he
They're
say you
breaking
must tithe
God's
mint and
law
cumin?
because they're hypocrites.
Where did
Because
he
they're
say
hypocrites.
where
And
did Jesus say you must
it's
tithe mint and
it's
cumin?
hypocritical to
You're
use this and
lying.
then to
You're
nullify
just
the
lying.
Torah,
I just read
to
it.
nullify the Sabbath.
Where does it say that he told
You
people they must tithe cumin and mint?
Catholicism nullifies the Torah.
You're
Catholicism
lying.
nullifies the
People,
Sabbath.
are you aware that people can hear
The
you?
seventh day.
Are you
The
aware that
seventh day.
people can hear what I read and then hear the lie that you just said about it?
Whatever
Where
they
does
tell you to
Jesus
observe,
say?
that observe and
Where
do.
does Jesus say you must tithe mint and cumin?
He says these you ought to have done and without leaving the others undone. That's what he says.
Where does he say that?
You ought to tithe. Yeah, read the verse. It's very clear. But you think that this nullifies the Torah. You think that
Woe
it
to you,
nullifies
scribes and
the
Pharisees,
tithing.
hypocrites! For you pay the tithe of mint, but neglect the weightier matters of the law, the mercy, justice, and faith.
The next part. Read the context.
These you ought to have done without leaving the others undone.
Yeah, without leaving tithing undone.
Right, but the weightier thing is the justice, mercy, and faith. He's saying those supersede all the ritual laws you're doing.
That's what Judaism teaches. These
Not
are the weightier matters.
some elements of Judaism teach similar things, correct. It's not in practice, though.
Pharisaic Judaism
Does not practice
he
that,
says
what it
we must
preaches.
observe and follow.
It doesn't even
Therefore,
practice what it
whatever
preaches
they
there.
say
The idea that you would
that
walk
observe and
away
do.
from reading the New Testament with a favorable impression of Pharisees is comical. Okay.
Now, can I just finish
Paul
the
says,
chapter here?
I'm a Pharisee.
So-
in Acts 23, verse 6.
So
He says, I am
Jesus,
a Pharisee.
hold on a second.
Paul
So
was a
Jesus
Pharisee.
says,
After all
Jesus
of
says
his
at the
missionary
beginning of
journey,
23,
he was still a Pharisee.
I'm going to mute you
He
if
never
you
denied
don't let me
being a
finish.
Pharisee.
If you don't let me finish the chapter.
I'm just you just don't understand Israel. You said you just started reading the New Testament, but somehow.
So you're muted now. Okay. Let's finish the chapter. He says, they sit in the seat of Moses, listen to them about Moses. But then he goes on to condemn everything about their practices and the way they behave. And then he says, I will send you prophets and wise men and scribes, whom you will crucify and kill. It's very clear from the full context of Matthew 23 that Jesus is affirming that they are teaching the law of Moses, and you should listen to that, but not the rest of their practices and stuff that they do, and not the way they behave. And also, he's going to send them the true scholars and scribes and prophets.
Yeah, it's
That's
clear
the
that
full
from a Christian
context of Matthew
perspective,
23.
from a Christian perspective,
To use Matthew 23 to affirm rabbinic Judaism is mind-bogglingly stupid.
well, yeah, of course, because from a Christian perspective, there is a new authority that's being introduced, Jesus and his disciples. So, yeah, the idea that he's affirming the Pharisees is insane.
Somebody's asking if we can get Asher Meza next time for the rabbinic voice. Asher Meza conceded that his belief is that God is not omniscient, which is wild.
He also doesn't believe that the oral Torah is from Mount Sinai. He just
Right.
thinks that it's the best form of consensus that we have, to which I would say it's not.
So he says, regarding Matthew 23, we should obey authorities out of respect for their position, but don't go against your conscience. But because a religious leader tells you to do something, it doesn't mean it comes from God. Yeah, I would also affirm, I don't think Jews are bad for practicing Judaism. If they don't know about the gospel, they don't know about Christianity. I'm not here to say that those who practice rabbinic Judaism are bad by default, and I'd even go as far as to say there's a lot of beautiful traditions in Judaism. I know that there's a lot of Hebrew Catholics that keep a lot of Jewish traditions for cultural reasons. Somebody's saying, can I read 37 for a good send-off? Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the one who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing. See, your house is left to you desolate. For I say to you, you shall see me no more till you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. I think that's Jesus affirming that he's speaking in the name of God there, as God, essentially. Yeah. Oh, I guess he. As soon as I muted him, he left the. I didn't even realize.
It's probably for the best. Do we have
Okay.
someone else in the waiting room, or Sam or something like that?
Sam didn't come back. We have RJ. I don't think he's a Orthodox Jew, but let's hear what he has to say. He's a viewer of the channel. RJ, can you hear us?
Yeah, hi.
How's it going?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. I came up for two questions, and the first question is for Israel, Mr. Horowitz. So
Hello.
I know you're a Karaite Jew, and I know that Karaite Jews in their synagogues, they have no chairs, and they mostly like kneel. How come? That's that's the first question I want to ask.
Okay, so for that, I'll have to clarify the point that I'm not actually a traditional Karaite Jew. I mean, synagogues are not even in the Torah to begin with. As far as I understand it, they observe kneeling completely to the floor as a full form of worship. It is biblical to prostrate yourself forehead to the floor. That's
Just like
something that is
Orthodox
mentioned.
Christians.
Just like Orthodox Christians, just like Muslims. So, I mean, it is a form of
Just like the
worship,
prophets.
and just like the prophets. So it's just a form of, I guess, true bowing down.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to ask. And for you, Mr. Ash,
Yeah.
someone asked, like I mentioned Valentine's Day in the chat, and then someone said that it's like quote unquote like pagan and stuff, but I briefly mentioned it's named after a saint. And so I think this is a question based on what they asked me. So do you think we should celebrate a Valentine's Day or any holiday
Yeah,
like
to my
Christmas and stuff
understanding,
like
it's a
that?
celebration of the feast day of a saint in the Catholic Church. I actually don't know much about Valentine's Day. All I know is I am buying my wife lots of flowers and chocolate-covered strawberries and things of that nature.
Okay.
I don't know much. Honestly, I don't know much about Valentine's Day. I know that it's a feast day of a saint that's legitimate in the church, but I couldn't go into the depths of it with you. I don't know much about it.
Yeah.
Sounds like
Well,
an excuse to buy your wife flowers.
Yeah.
there you go. I wish I kind of know about Valentine's Day because I for those who don't know, I do personal history on religions and different cultures. So, but maybe one day we can have a little discussion on this. But because there are a lot of people here who got questions here, it's not the time to do that. So yeah, that's all I just wanted to bring up. That was it. Thanks guys
Thank you.
for coming on, and yeah, hope to see you guys another time. Take care.
Awesome. Thank you.
What a gentleman. God
Yeah.
bless.
I got just a couple more super chats. I think I read up to here. Yeah, asking if Jews as props. No, I don't think the Gentiles are used as props in God's plan. No, I don't think that the Torah teaches that. I don't think that Christianity teaches that. I think that there are elements of versions of Kabbalistic thought that teach that, unfortunately. This sounds so good. Doesn't nations mean tribes of Israel, not the Gentiles? I'm trying to remember my theory. No, nations doesn't mean tribes of Israel.
No, that sounds like a rabbinic interpretation. I've actually seen that. Actually, I've seen that in their translation. They translated nations as tribes. Well, no, nations means nations.
And then we got that. What are Karaites' thoughts on identifying the Messiah? Sorry, I'm coughing now. I ran out of things to drink.
No worries. The Messiah. The Torah only talks very vaguely about the existence of some supreme leader. I think probably the only real source for that is the Shiloh in Genesis. This idea that the scepter will not depart from Judah until Shiloh comes, and to him will be the obedience of all peoples. That's the only thing I know about it, which basically means I don't know anything other than it seems that there is a. By the way, Shiloh, the word Shiloh refers to tranquility, so the tranquil one. So it implies that there will be a unity and a peace among the nations, and I pray for that day. I think God is the ultimate one who decides on the timing of these things. As I read the Torah, I see it as individual responsibilities for governing families and societies in accordance with justice. And the Messiah is not a central theme of the Torah. And it's just, as Ash pointed out, the same way the Torah doesn't command you to believe in the resurrection of the dead, it doesn't command you to believe in the Messiah. That's a kind of a secondary thing. And God sends leaders and judges and prophets. And I pray he gives us good leaders.
And then, sorry for the lateness, but this is for helping with your kid's medical bill. May the Lord have mercy. Yeah, my son is doing fine. Thank you for everyone who's been asking. Had a little bit of a medical incident, but it was fine later that day. But the bill was massive, which is still being worked on. But I feel bad because the like people did donate and cover basically. So if you're sending this in to help with the bill, a lot of people sent in and it's basically covered at this point. So I do appreciate that. Thank you. A lot
That's
of
awesome.
good people helped with that on the GoFundMe. So thank you so much for everyone that did help. That was quite the shock when I opened up the like, here's your portion of the bill part of things. $8,200 and whatever dollars. Crazy. So we do have somebody waiting, one more, and then I think we're going to call it a night. Does that work for you?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. And we're going to be fairly brief with this one. I feel bad because we gave a trolling.
I just want to respond to the one guy. He says, does Israel reject all the prophets? I don't reject the prophets. I simply am saying that the Torah gives you law of what you have to believe. As far as the qualification for prophecy, Deuteronomy 18:22 says, if you want to know whether a prophecy is true, see if it will come true. So what I say is let's see what comes true, and then we'll know.
All right, we're going to bring in one more. Mr. Wasserman, can you hear us? Hello? Mr. Wasserman, can you hear us?
Is it lagging? I don't know. I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and you respond now, and then we'll know if it's lagging.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I guess that's lagging pretty bad. What's your background? Da, na, 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 na.
Oh no.
Okay. Yeah, he had he dropped out. Too bad of a lag.
Okay.
All right.
That's
I think we're
unfortunate.
gonna probably call it a night there.
I just want to say that I think that people might think, oh, like, look at that guy, that caller, he's not representative of Judaism. But unfortunately, like, that actually is the level of knowledge that
not
most
knowing your
Orthodox Jews
Judaism is
have.
representative of Judaism.
Exactly. Yeah, and those are the arguments. Like, I don't want people to think like, oh, if you had a big rabbi on, he would have all the good arguments. Those are the arguments. The arguments are, believe us because we said so. We are the judges. We tell you what to do. You have to follow us. And that's not a reasoning. It's just not. The reality is that the system of the Torah is given over to Israel, and there is a vision where we're governed by just courts who are implementing God's law, not who are fabricating their own laws in some exiled time. And if you want to read what the Torah has to say about an exiled Israelites' obligations, read Deuteronomy 4:29. Read Deuteronomy chapter 30. Okay, what you're looking at is return to God from the place that you're in, wherever you're spread across the world. That's where you have to do. You return to God, heart and soul, as we read from the New Testament. Jesus says you're neglecting the weightier commandments like justice, like truth. These are the things that God is calling us, heart and soul. He's calling us back to him no matter where we are in the world. That's the Torah's calling. Nowhere in the Torah does it say, when you're exiled across the world, go to your local rabbi and ask him how to wash your hands before you eat bread. Okay, that is not the spirit of the Torah at all. That is not the law of the Torah at all. And that's absolutely what we should be doing if we're God-fearing as Jews.
Yep. Yeah, I think that anyone who grew up in the Jewish community knows that if you bring up these kinds of questions about the authority of Judaism, it's dismissed, or it's given some kind of, we believe this, blah 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 blah. But guess what? Our ancestors passed it down from Moses. It's like, well, yeah, but not the oral Torah. Your ancestors are passing that down from the 3rd century. So.
Oh, I want to call people to read Leviticus 26 as well, which explicitly says you should confess your sins and the sins of your fathers. So this idea that just because your fathers preceded you, therefore they are perfect. I mean, God remembers the sins of the fathers on the sons. Like the fathers sin, the idea that just because people came before us, they're somehow greater than us, as we pointed out to the caller, the unbroken chain of rabbinic law, also the unbroken chain of paganism and the unbroken chain of Satanism, right? So the unbroken chain, the established institution, the majority, all of these appeals to authority and majority are actually in opposition to the Torah, which is an appeal to truth and godliness above all.
And if any of you want to see something on the Christian side of things that's really funny, Rabbi Manis Friedman, who is known as the internet's most popular rabbi, he's a Chabad rabbi, just trashing and throwing Tuvia Singer under the bus in a conversation with a Christian, where he, not knowingly, but basically affirms that Christianity has the core ideas of Judaism embedded in it, and therefore Christianity did in fact spread the Torah to all the nations and around the world, which is a core claim of Christianity, contrary to what Tuvia Singer and other anti-Christian polemicists will say. So really interesting there. A couple things. Number one, if you want to support on my Buy Me a Coffee, no pressure. Go to check out Israel's channel. Again, we disagree. He's a Torah-only pseudo-Karaite Jewish person. With those beliefs. I am a Christian. We disagree on theology, but I think he has a really great channel. He addresses a lot of important things on all kinds of topics. Go check out in the chat. There's Divine Mercy Apologetics. We're going to be doing something later this week that's going to be a lot of fun. I'll plug it now, but the Gospel According to the Rabbis, which should be a lot of fun, on my channel. So we'll check that out. Check out Divine Mercy's channel. Check out Utis. He's also in the chat, one of my mods. Check out Defending a Lion. Really cool people. Again, different backgrounds and different beliefs for a lot of those people. So definitely take a look at it. We're going to close out now. Stay for the epic outro. If you guys have seen it before, you know what it is. Israel, you stay on for a minute?
Yeah.
All right. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit. Let's go.